Chapter 743. 4 half-step Dao Lords had brought the realm-sealing seal with them to kill Chu Kuangren, but they were easily killed by Chu Kuangren instead. Chu Kuangren's powerful combat strength shocked everyone. There was a moment of silence on the battlefield. Chu Kuangren stood in the air with his peerless white robe. He glanced at one of the Blood Tribe's heavenly venerables and pointed a finger at him. A gigantic finger shadow immediately condensed in the void, and within it was a small world. The Blood Tribe heavenly venerables who were targeted by the finger were terrified. They tried to escape, but they were hit by the finger energy. With a boom, a mist of blood exploded. The heavenly venerables had fallen. Retreat! One of the heavenly venerables roared. Chu Kuangren wanted to give chase, but he realized that the realm-sealing seal had suddenly trembled. The enchanted boundary had become even more stable. He felt a powerful pressure erupt from the surrounding space, and he felt like he had fallen into a gravitational vortex. Oh, the seal can still operate. Chu Kuangren looked at the realm-sealing seal with a burning gaze. It was as if he wanted to see through the seal and see the person behind it. The Emperor's chi surged as the 10,000 Dao Lords unleashed a punch. The surrounding spatial pressure could not withstand it at all, and the majestic fist energy directly landed on the seal. With a boom, the enchanted boundary shattered, and the seal was sent flying into the distance in a stream of light. You want to leave? Did you ask for my permission? Chu Kuangren snorted. He took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the seal. He raised his hand and grabbed, and the 10,000 Dao Lords behind him followed suit. After the realm-sealing seal was caught, it trembled violently, trying to break free from Chu Kuangren's control. However, it was forcefully suppressed by the 10,000 Dao Lords. It would be rude of me to refuse this Dao weapon. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Wisdom King grunted coldly while a piercingly cold expression flickered in his eyes. This time, their blood race hadn't just lost 4 half-step Dao Lords, they'd even lost a Dao artifact. This battle had given them a clearer understanding of Chu Kuangren's strength, and they now knew how much of a threat he posed to the Blood Tribe. If this person doesn't die, he will definitely become a huge threat to the Blood Tribe. We must think of a way to get rid of him as soon as possible, King Ming said lightly. We can't be rash when dealing with this person. With him presiding over Fortress 31, let's give it up for now, said a Blood King. That's all we can do for now. Send someone down to collect information on this person, including his friends and family. The more detailed, the better. Got it. The vampire troops heading for Fortress 31 retreated. In the absence of peak combat power, no matter how many cultivators there were, it was impossible for them to win. Fortress 31 had achieved victory once again. And it was even easier than last time. Basically, apart from the heavenly venerables fighting, the rest of the people were mostly watching and had no chance to make a move. Back at Fort 31, Chu Kuangren toyed with the imperial seal in his hand, trying to feel the spatial energy within it. This Dao artifact is quite good for trapping people. He put it away and planned to find a time to refine it again. Chu Kuangren, Fort 38 is requesting reinforcements. At this time, Luo Shui found Chu Kuangren and said. At the same time, she tossed a supreme elixir to him. It was a wartime supply to ensure that the cultivators would not run out of spiritual power. Oh, do you want me to go over? Luo Shui nodded. All right. Chu Kuangren nodded and swallowed the supreme elixir into his stomach. His universal cauldron physique also quickly began to operate. Soon, the entire supreme elixir was completely refined by him. They arrived at the center of Fort 31. There was a teleportation point here that was connected to the other 80 fortresses. The other fortresses also had their own teleportation points, so they could quickly deploy the troops of all the fortresses to help each other. Now, the other fortresses were busy dealing with the Blood Tribe troops. The only one that could quickly deploy troops to help Fort 38 was Fort 31, which had suffered the least damage. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren alone was equivalent to an entire army. I'm counting on you, Luo Shui said. Don't worry, leave it to me. Chu Kuangren smiled and stepped onto the teleportation point. Fort 38. A bloody battle was taking place in the starry sky. Vast energy ripples spread out and shook the universe. The ones who fought the most intensely were the emperors and heavenly venerables. There were hundreds of emperors participating in this battle, and there were dozens of heavenly honorables. All of them were in a frenzy. However, the situation was not so optimistic for Fort 38. The number of emperors was constantly decreasing. The most crucial battle, the heavenly honorable battle, was not optimistic either. The general of Fort 38 was a half-step Taoist lord. However, he had joined forces with the other heavenly honorables to use a joint attack formation to temporarily trap a half-step Taoist lord from the blood tribe. This half-step Taoist lord was extremely powerful. He held a long spear in his hand, and when he brandished it, it set off terrifying gales. That spear, in particular, contained a small world. If an ordinary upper heavenly honorable were struck by it, they would either die or be crippled. This was an extremely powerful half-step Taoist lord. Whether it was his foundation or the quality of his Taoist techniques, they were superior to the general of Fort 38. Even though he had joined forces with the other heavenly honorables to set up a formation, he was still barely able to hold on. The longer the battle dragged on, the more damage Fort 38 would suffer, and this battle would be even more hopeless. D***eminent. The general of Fort 38, Heavenly Honorable Mo Ling, gritted his teeth and defended against the half-step Taoist lord's attack. With a bang, the Blood Fiend race member stabbed with his spear and sent a horned Firmament Demon race member flying. Honorable Sky Bull. D***eminent. Hu Fei, who was also a demon, grimaced. She waved her hand, and with a long howl, she transformed into her heavenly fox form. The heavenly fox, whose body was the size of a small mountain, charged out and headbutted the blood beast, sending him flying. The 9 white tails behind her were also waving frantically, attacking the blood beasts like 9 divine weapons. "Get out of my way, you stinking fox!" The blood beast roared and hurled the spear in his hand. The terrifying power of a small world erupted, breaking through the 9 fox tails and slamming into Hu Fei, sending her flying while coughing up blood. Hu Fei. The 2 strongest heavenly honorables in the fort were injured one after another. Heavenly Honorable Mo Ling roared and transformed into his firmament demon form. It was a 9-headed serpent ferocious beast. It was Jiao. The power of fire and water filled the entire world as he battled the blood beast, but it didn't take long for 3 of his heads to be chopped off. "Ha, you bunch of beasts! I'm going to kill you all today, then take over this fort and earn a great merit." The half-step Taoist lord roared with laughter, extremely pleased with himself. With that, he slashed his spear down at Heavenly Honorable Mo Ling. "I think you're dreaming." A voice resounded. A gorgeous white jade sword flew over from afar. The sword chi swept for millions of kilometers, killing blood beast after blood beast in its path. What? Chapter 744. The long sword, along with its majestic sword chi, came from millions of kilometers away. It forced the half-step Tao Lord of the Blood Fiend tribe to withdraw his attack on Heavenly Venerable Mo Ling and block the attack first. "Break!" The Blood Fiend tribe roared and thrust his spear forward. 2 surges of energy collided like 2 cosmic storms, and the purple sword chi and blood-colored energy intertwined. Large amounts of Taoist patterns swirled and covered most of the universe. In the next moment, the violet sword energy shattered the blood-red energy and smashed into the blood beast race's half-step Tao Lord, sending him flying for 1,000,000 kilometers before he smashed into a small planet. Bang! Sparks erupted like dazzling fireworks as the small planet exploded and transformed into cosmic dust. "Who is it?" A furious voice resounded throughout the universe. The Blood Fiend tribe dashed out from the cosmic dust. His armor had been torn apart by the sword chi, and his body was still covered in sparks. His blood-red eyes were filled with violence as he stared into the distance. The white jade longsword turned into a stream of light and shuttled between the stars before it finally returned to a slender, fair hand. The newcomer was dressed in white and had black hair. He was extremely handsome, and compared to the hideous face of the Blood Fiend tribe, his eyes were calm. Brother Chu! Thank goodness, Brother Chu is here. Honorable Sky Bull, Hu Fei and the others were shocked. They had heard about Chu Kuangren's battle achievements. They knew that his strength was no weaker than a half-step Dao Lord. Hold on, why is Brother Chu alone? Honorable Sky Bull was stunned. It was true that Chu Kuangren was strong. But why was there only one of him? Could he really defeat the hundreds of millions of Blood Fiend tribe troops? The other heavenly venerables were dumbfounded as well. I alone am enough, Chu Kuangren said. Then he took a step forward, and the space before him seemed to have lost all meaning. In just one step, he was already in front of the Blood Fiend tribe. I don't care who you are, but you shall die. The Blood Fiend tribe thrust his spear forward. The spear was imbued with the power of the small world, and it was so powerful that it caused the void to distort. However, Chu Kuangren's expression did not change at all. The descendant's self-sword in his hand also contained a small world. The sword and spear collided, and the two worlds collided. The Blood Beast Monarch felt an irresistible force erupt from the white jade sword, and his spear was knocked out of his hand. Then the sword light flashed. The spectators watched as that formidable enemy that the joint forces of a few heavenly exalts and half-step Dao Lords were unable to defeat had been beheaded. This person is so strong. This combat strength is really incredible. Honorable Empyrean Bull, Hu Fei, and the others were dumbfounded by Chu Kuangren's actions. At this moment, Chu Kuangren swept his gaze across the remaining Blood Tribe heavenly venerables. With a lift of his hand, he unleashed his little world and enveloped all the heavenly venerables within. He brandished the sword in his hand. Every time he slashed out, a terrifying sword light that tore through the heavens and split the earth, killing heavenly venerables one by one. Before long, the Blood Race Empyreans were slaughtered clean by him. Sword Chi Doppelganger. Chu Kuangren activated his Sword Chi clone once again. Beams of Sword Chi flew out from his body. As the Sword Chi danced in the air, it turned into countless clones that covered the entire battlefield. Among the spectators, one of the emperors was dumbfounded. F***ck me, isn't that my Sword Chi clone? F***ck me, it's him. That emperor was dumbfounded. That person was none other than the mindful emperor who created the Sword Chi clone. With Chu Kuangren's arrival, the Blood Race's defeat was inevitable. After all, no one below the Dao Lords was a match for Chu Kuangren. Soon, the Blood Race troops were wiped out one by one. Everyone looked at the white-robed figure with respect and admiration. Thank you, Brother Chu. Heavenly Venerate Mo Ling came before Chu Kuangren and thanked him sincerely. It's all right. Chu Kuangren reached out and cast the Spring Breeze healing technique to heal Heavenly Venerate Mo Ling's injuries. Then he lifted his arm and cast the Spring Breeze healing technique to cover a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, healing the injuries of countless soldiers. This scene caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. Spatial techniques, a clone technique, and an emperor technique that can heal injuries in a large area. This man is practically the ruler of the battlefield. Heavenly Venerate Mo Ling said in amazement. However, Chu Kuangren, who had cast the Spring Breeze healing technique in such a large area, did not look as relaxed as he looked. He had consumed a lot of Emperor's Qi. Brother Chu, it's all thanks to you this time. Yeah. Hu Fei, Honorable Sky Bull, and the other heavenly venerates also came up to thank him. Hu Fei, in particular, could not help but gulp as she looked at Chu Kuangren's godlike figure. She felt that this man had made her even more fascinated. Brother Chu, do you still remember me? At that moment, an emperor walked up to him. Chu Kuangren chuckled when he saw him. Emperor Mindful, it's been a while. You're the first emperor I've ever met, so how could I not remember you? You were the one who taught me this Sword Chi clone. Emperor Mindful laughed, feeling proud of Chu Kuangren. This emperor technique has truly flourished in your hands. It's many times more powerful than when it was in my hands. I'm completely convinced. He was truly convinced. The last time his emperor's thought met Chu Kuangren was more than 10 years ago. However, in that short time, Chu Kuangren had grown from a puny honorable to the point where he could kill a half-step Daolord. He would not have imagined this even if he was beaten to death. The situation at Fort 38 had more or less stabilized. However, Chu Kuangren did not stay idle. He did not return to Fort 31. Instead, he wandered around the major fortresses as a lone soldier, going wherever the situation was critical. With his unparalleled strength, elusive spatial conveyor technique, sword chi clones, and many other techniques, his active performance on the battlefield was witnessed by everyone, and they were all extremely shocked. Battlefield Dominator, White-Robed Battle God, Sword God, King of Lone Soldiers, Spatial Controller, and so on, one after another, titles fell on his head. Chu Kuangren's reputation on the battlefield had reached its peak. 3 months later, Fort 31. Chu Kuangren sat cross-legged on a warship, quickly absorbing the impure spiritual qi in the universe and converting it into Emperor's qi. With the universal cauldron physique, the process was very fast. It was not only the universal cauldron physique but also the power of faith. He realized that the more active he was on the battlefield, the more intense the power of faith became. After all, he had fought countless battles in the past few months, and many people regarded him as a deity on the battlefield. Our battlefield dominator, white-robed battle god, king of lone soldiers, and spatial controller, how's your recovery, sword god? A teasing voice came from beside him. Luo Shui slowly walked over. Chu Kuangren chuckled at her words. First female emperor of all time, Luo Shui. Is there anything I can help you with? Nothing much. I just wanted to tell you that the Blood Tribe's attacks have weakened quite a bit recently. They'll probably stop for a few days. Luo Shui said. But they won't stop for long. Yes, of course. In the past, the Crimson Firmament battles lasted at least 13 years. It's only been a few months now. That's right. Look, the combat leaderboard has been updated. At that moment, a voice came from a soldier beside him. Chapter 745. The combat leaderboard has been updated. At that moment, a voice came from the side. Many people gathered around to watch the fight. Following the outbreak of the Crimson Firmament battle, many capable warriors had achieved many battle merits. Hence, the rankings on the combat leaderboard had changed. Look, our general is ranked 41st. Luo Shui was calm when she heard that. She had just returned not long ago. Although she had killed many enemies in the Crimson Firmament battle, it was unrealistic to say that her ranking was high. The 41st place was neither high nor low, it was just right. If she were to rank so high, she would wonder if anyone was killing enemies at all. Was the Firmament Star going to be destroyed? Quick, look at Brother Chu's ranking. Everyone said excitedly. Let's see. The soldier who was looking at the combat leaderboard kept swiping his finger up and down. Then he gasped. I found it. The combat leaderboard is ranked first. Battle merits. 1. 3 billion. 1. 3 billion battle merits, ranked first. That shocked countless soldiers in the strongholds. Even Luo Shui was shocked. How many Blood Tribe warriors did you kill? Chu Kuangren pondered for a while and thought carefully. I didn't really remember, but it should be around 1 billion. Gulp. Everyone gulped as their pupils trembled violently. In just a few months, he had killed more than 1 billion. Holy **T. That was even worse than a butcher. It's impossible to achieve such a scale of battle merits just by killing the enemies. Brother Chu has played a huge role in this battle. That's right. The spatial conveyor technique, sword chi clones, spring breeze healing technique, and other techniques have saved us a lot of casualties. Tisk he's not called the battlefield dominator for nothing. If the Daolords don't attack, no one is a match for Brother Chu. Moreover, the Daolords are keeping each other busy, so who would dare to attack? Brother Chu is amazing. 1. 3 billion battle merits, ranked first on the combat leaderboard. The news quickly spread across the 81 strongholds. Everyone was shocked by this. The name of Chu Kuangren was now known to everyone. This is too amazing. It's only been 3 months since the start of the Crimson Firmament battle, but his battle merits have risen from 100 million to 1. 3 billion. Not even the Tao Lords can do this. The strongest person below the Tao Lord. No, forget about being the number one person below the Tao Master. I feel that he can even be compared to the Tao Master. Not bad. As expected of the most demonic prodigy in the history of the firmament star. Perhaps he can really change the situation of the extraterrestrial battlefield. Battlefield dominator, you live up to your reputation. I'm convinced. For a lone soldier to reach this level, what else can I say other than being convinced? I'm really looking forward to his future. It only took him a few short months to go from 31st place to 1st place. This kind of advancement speed refreshed everyone's understanding. However, it was rare that no one was unconvinced. That was because the role that Chu Kuangren had played in this battle of the Crimson Firmament was no longer something that could be simply described with the word battle merit. Everyone knew that. Once Chu Kuangren was allowed to grow for a period of time, 100 years or even 1,000 years, he would definitely become a force that could influence the foreign battlefields. Was 100 years or 1,000 years very long? One had to know that the war between them and the blood breeds had already lasted for 12 eras. 100 or even 1,000 years was nothing to them. Chu Kuangren was only 30 this year. He was still too young. So young that it was almost unbelievable. However, this youth gave him immeasurable potential. After 3 months of continuous attacks, the blood tribe's tempo suddenly slowed down. Although local battles continued, there were no large-scale battles, so Chu Kuangren was able to rest for a few days. He took advantage of this time to refine the realm-sealing seal that he had obtained a few months ago. This Tao weapon was indeed extraordinary. It was a treasure that could trap people. If it was fully unleashed, even a Tao Lord might not be able to escape. Then he contacted Yu Zhaowu. Yu Zhaowu was a spy that he had planted in the blood tribe. He was a heavenly honorable realm expert and held a high position in the blood tribe, so he could usually provide Chu Kuangren with some information. Master, the blood tribe's frontline forces have suffered a setback because of you. They are now temporarily delaying their attacks and waiting for resources from the rear. Oh, resources from the rear. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Sometimes, a war was about resources. As long as they had an advantage in resources, the firmament star would have an easier time in the future. However, if the enemy had an advantage in resources, Yu Zhaowu, do you have a transportation route for the blood tribe's resources? Part of it. Give it to me. Soon, Chu Kuangren obtained the transportation route from Yu Zhaowu. A glint flashed across his eyes. He called Luo Shui over and explained the matter to him. Is the information reliable? That blood tribe member is under my control. He won't betray us. Although we know the transportation route, it won't be easy to cross the blood tribe's battlefield and intercept them. Let me go. Chu Kuangren smiled. Can you gather so many resources? Some resources could not be stored in yin and yang rings. Too strong of an energy fluctuation would damage the space within the yin and yang rings. I've refined a secret realm. That secret realm should be enough to store all these resources, Chu Kuangren said confidently. With his elusive spatial conveyor technique and a secret realm that could store everything, he might be the best person to carry out this mission. Be careful, Luo Shui said. Got it. Chu Kuangren smiled and cast the spatial conveyor technique. He turned around and walked into the void, instantly disappearing on the spot. In the vast and boundless universe, there were more than 10 battleships sailing. They were the blood tribe's resource transportation ships. A ripple appeared in the void. A white-robed figure suddenly appeared in the void. It was Chu Kuangren. He had used the spatial conveyor technique to travel nearly half a light-year without alerting the blood tribe's frontline troops. Chu Kuangren smirked as he looked at the transport fleet before him. He then scanned the fleet with his emperor's thought to get a general understanding of the situation. There were many cultivators, but the strongest one was only a heavenly venerable. He was just an ordinary upper heavenly venerable. To Chu Kuangren, he was not a threat at all. I'll gladly accept it then. Chu Kuangren's figure flashed and landed on one of the warships. Who's there? D*Eminent, it's someone from Firmament Star. The blood tribe cultivators' expressions changed. However, before they could do anything, the descendant self-sword on Chu Kuangren's waist was unsheathed and slashed across the void. One by one, the blood tribe cultivators were killed by the sword. The descendant self-sword wreaked havoc on the warship. Countless blood tribe cultivators were killed easily. The other warships also reacted and wanted to help. However, they were powerless against Chu Kuangren. Soon, the fleet was annihilated by Chu Kuangren. All the resources transported by the fleet were stored into his secret realm. The first transportation route is done. Chapter 746. 14 Resource Routes. 14 of them, billions of blood origin crystals and supreme elixirs are gone. What the hell are those useless fools at the front line doing? The enemy has already gone to our rear to steal our resources, but they didn't even notice. Inside the blood tribe's headquarters, one of the 13 kings, the far-sighted king, was so furious that his body was twitching, and his blood-red eyes were filled with violence. All the blood tribe members within a 10,000-kilometer radius were trembling in fear. The resource routes are top secret. Not even the higher-ups of the blood tribe know about it. How did the people of Firmament Star find out? The far-sighted king gradually calmed down after his rage subsided. The other blood kings fell into deep thought when they heard his words. Is there a traitor among us? That must be it. Find a way to find out who the traitor is. Also, make a new resource route. No one but us is allowed to leak it. The far-sighted king took a deep breath. To be able to steal 14 batches of resources in just a few days without anyone knowing, I'm afraid only Chu Kuangren, who possesses spatial techniques, can do that. The White King said coldly. The other Blood King's expressions turned serious when they heard that name. They were also very wary of Chu Kuangren. Indeed. If we don't get rid of this guy, it'll be difficult to continue this war. Not only this war, but if this guy doesn't die, the blood tribe will have a hard time in the future, the far-sighted king said. How's the plan coming along? It's almost done. If that's the case, then let's begin. Even if we have to fight the Firmament Star's Taoist masters, we must kill this guy. Fort 31. Chu Kuangren returned after stealing 14 batches of blood tribe resources. Although there were many resources in that batch, not many of them were useful to him. Hence, he distributed them to the soldiers at the front line. Because of this incident, his prestige increased by quite a bit. In the past few days, his faith energy had been increasing. Refining faith energy was also one of Chu Kuangren's cultivation methods. It was not limited to the extraterrestrial battlefield. On Firmament Star, as the Black Heaven sect grew stronger, so did his faith energy. Based on the growth rate of faith energy, even if I don't look for other opportunities of fortune, I'll be able to ascend to the Taoist Master Realm in less than 3 years. Chu Kuangren murmured as he looked at the boundless universe. Advancing to the Tao Lord Realm in 3 years? Not many people would believe it if this was spread out. After all, which of the current Tao Lords hadn't spent countless years of accumulation to reach their current level? There were even some extraordinarily talented geniuses who were stuck at the doorstep of the Tao Lord Realm their entire lives. Advance to the Tao Lord Realm in 3 years? This kind of thing was too ridiculous. However, Chu Kuangren was extremely confident. He even felt that 3 years was a little too long. Fellow Taoist Chu, there's an urgent military report. At this moment, the Luo River arrived. Chu Kuangren was surprised to hear that. What military intelligence? Yan Honghua, you know her, right? Yes, what happened to her? Chu Kuangren frowned. Some time ago, when Yan Honghua was chasing after a blood breed troop, she entered the encirclement of the blood breed. Now, it is unknown whether she is alive or dead. The higher-ups are currently organizing people to rescue her. Luo Shui said. Yan Honghua was one of the most outstanding prodigies among the 81 fortresses in the off-world battlefield. If nothing went wrong, there was a very high chance that she would become a Tao Lord in the future and become one of the strongest combatants in the off-world battlefield. The upper echelons of the human race naturally attached great importance to such a prodigy. They would not let her die just like that. Upon hearing this news, Chu Kuangren immediately contacted the ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable. General, how is the young general doing? They are currently trapped on the 64th asteroid, surrounded by blood-breed troops. It won't be easy for them to break out of the encirclement. Don't worry, General. I'll personally make a trip there. Yan Honghua was the future mainstay of the human race, and she was also a friend of the ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable. Now that she was in trouble, the ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable would naturally not sit idly by. Brother Chu, the 17th fortress still needs my protection. I can't leave, so I'll leave Huar in your hands. The ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable said solemnly. Don't worry, General. The rescue mission could not be delayed any longer. Chu Kuangren soon departed. Initially, there were a few other Heavenly Honorables accompanying him. However, considering that Chu Kuangren's combat strength alone was enough to take on thousands of Heavenly Honorables, those Heavenly Honorables were assigned to other battlefields. Inside the 64th asteroid, Yan Honghua and her red-robed guards were hiding in a mountain range. There was a red veil around them. This veil had the effect of blocking out the Emperor's thoughts. It was also because of this veil that they were able to evade the blood-breed troops' search. Yan Honghua looked at the red-robed guards behind her, who were more or less injured, with an apologetic look on her face. If I hadn't made a mistake in my strategy, everyone wouldn't have ended up like this. Young General, this is not your fault. Yes, if it wasn't for you leading us out of the encirclement, we would have died yesterday. Bai Lichuan said with a faint smile. Young General, there are too many blood breeds searching this area. Let's leave quickly and find a place to rest. Bai Lixue glanced at the blood breed troops in the sky and said, All right. Yan Honghua nodded and led the group away. In the forest, a blood breed troop was searching for the red-robed guards. Tiske, this group of women sure knows how to hide. They've been hiding here for a few days now. I wonder where they've gone. I heard that the general said that anyone who finds these women will be rewarded with 100,000 blood origin crystals. The eyes of a few blood breed soldiers lit up. The blood origin crystals were equivalent to the spiritual marrow of the firmament star. They could be absorbed by cultivators and converted into spiritual energy and Emperor's essence. 100,000 blood origin crystals would tempt even an emperor. Let's not think about it. I heard that there's a heavenly lord among those women. Their strength is not something we can compare to. A blood fiend tribe soldier curled his lips and said, If possible, don't let us meet them. Otherwise, we won't even know how we died. As the soldier spoke, he brushed the leaves in front of him aside. Then he saw a group of women in armor walking towards him, and the one leading them happened to be looking at him. The two of them stared at each other for a second. It can't be, it can't be. He really ran into them. The blood fiend tribe member gulped. Before he could do anything, Yan Honghua had already flown towards him. In the blink of an eye, the world spun. The blood fiend tribe member was beheaded while he was still in a daze. Found them. Quick, inform the general. The other soldiers' expressions changed drastically. However, Yan Honghua's reaction was even faster. She activated the Heavenly Lord's small world. Although she had just broken through and was not too familiar with the small world, it was more than enough to deal with this group of blood-breed soldiers who were not even emperors. In the blink of an eye, this group of people was killed by Yan Honghua. Let's go, Yan Honghua said to the red-robed guards behind her. However, it was too late. The fluctuations of the small world attracted the attention of the blood-breed powerhouses. Dozens of light figures flew over and arrived above the red-robed guards. I've finally found you. Chapter 747. I've finally found you. Dozens of streams of light arrived above the red-clothed guards. The leader of the group was sitting on an empty chair. He held a glass cup in his hand, and the cup was filled with fine wine. It was a young man dressed in a blood-red robe. His blood-red eyes were looking at Yan Honghua, revealing a playful look. Upon seeing him, Yan Honghua's body erupted with a biting, cold, killing intent. It's you! Countless memories surged in Yan Honghua's mind. In the end, it stopped at the scene of her parents being pierced through by a man with a spear, and the man sitting on the chair and leaving. "Oh, you know me?" The blood-red-robed young man looked at Yan Honghua in surprise. Then he seemed to have thought of something and said, "I remember now. Your name is Yan Honghua, the young general of the general's residence in the 17th fortress, right? Your parents were killed by me." "Die!" Yan Honghua roared angrily and immediately rushed out. Her small world instantly unfolded. With a thrust of her spear, a terrifying spear force wrapped in Tao patterns, world energy, and the anger and hatred accumulated for decades. This spear strike was Yan Honghua's limit. But the blood-red-robed young man did not move. A heavenly venerable behind him made his move. "You're not qualified to touch the general." The heavenly venerable thrust out his spear and directly smashed onto Yan Honghua's spear, sending her flying hundreds of miles away and crashing thousands of feet into the ground. "Be careful, don't kill her. The higher-ups have ordered that she must live," the blood-red-robed young man said lightly. "I know she's bait." The heavenly venerable nodded. Damn it. Yan Honghua rushed out. Although she had suffered some injuries, the anger in her eyes did not diminish. But other than anger, she was also unwilling. She had already advanced to the heavenly venerable realm, but in front of her enemy, she still could not fight back. She could not even defeat one of the enemy's subordinates. She was still too weak. "No, but I have to at least let Bai Lichuan and the others leave." Yan Honghua glanced at Bai Lichuan and the others with a hint of determination in her eyes. Then she took out a dark red crystal. The crystal was surging with a large amount of resentment. This was her trump card. It was a crystal that had gathered the resentment of billions of lives on the battlefield. "I've spent years and thousands of battles to forge this resentment crystal. It's time to put it to use today." Yan Honghua growled and crushed the resentment crystal in her hand. A large amount of resentment immediately gushed out, transforming into millions of vengeful spirits that covered most of the sky, letting out shrill cries. Countless evil spirits fused into Yan Honghua's body. Strange black lines crawled all over her body. She couldn't help but cry out in pain. Then she gripped her spear and rushed towards the Blood Clan Empyrean. "Her aura is different. Be careful. In the end, he's just a lower-level heavenly sovereign." The Empyrean who had blasted Yan Honghua away rushed out once again, stabbing out with his spear. But this time, a massive amount of resentment gushed out from Yan Honghua's spear, transforming into a malicious spirit that tore at him. "What the hell is this?" The heavenly sovereign's expression changed and he couldn't help but retreat. But as he retreated, Yan Honghua's attacks became even more violent. Spear strike followed by spear strike, and every spear strike was wrapped in shocking resentment. The resentment mixed with the Emperor Qi was like the wailing of millions of malicious spirits. The Empyrean's fighting spirit was greatly affected. Even though his cultivation was higher than Yan Honghua's, he was still at a disadvantage. Damn it. A mere lower-level heavenly sovereign, don't be too arrogant." The Blood Clan Empyrean roared and stabbed out with his spear. But this time, what welcomed him was an even more violent spear momentum. Yan Honghua stabbed out with her spear. Large amounts of resentment and Emperor Qi condensed into a black flood dragon that rushed out, directly tearing apart the Blood Clan Empyrean's small world and knocking away his spear before slamming into his chest. Puff! The Blood Clan Empyrean spat out a mouthful of blood. His bones and tendons shattered as he fell to the ground like a rag. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How could this be? Yan Honghua's figure flickered and appeared in front of him. She stabbed out with her spear, blasting his head apart. As for the blood-robed youth, the general that everyone was talking about, he had been sitting on that chair the entire time, sipping his wine and not moving at all. After going through such a great battle, not only did his aura not decrease, but it was also continuously rising. He said in a playful tone, gathering the resentment of billions of living beings on the battlefield, "This cultivation method is quite unique. However, can you withstand the pain of 10,000 ghosts devouring your heart?" Yan Honghua gripped her spear, the strange black patterns on her body constantly squirming. The shadow behind her constantly twisted under the sunlight, faintly emitting mournful wails that made one shudder. If I can't kill you, I will feel even more pain. Yan Honghua stared at the blood-robed youth, her voice hoarse, like a beast that had been bitten full of holes, filled with bone-deep hatred. After saying that, she charged towards the blood-robed youth, but the Empyreans around the blood-robed youth blocked her at the same time. Do you really think we don't exist? Heh, there is no need for the general to deal with you. Several Empyreans attacked together. For a time, small worlds erupted, suppressing Yan Honghua, making it difficult for her to move. Roar! Yan Honghua let out a low roar. Resentment surged. She forcefully broke through the suppression of several small worlds. Her whole body seemed to have turned into a black ghost that shuttled through the air. Several Empyreans also attacked when they saw this. Swords, sabers, spears, and other weapons clashed together. Yan Honghua's strength was indeed powerful by using resentment crystals, but it was still not easy to kill several Empyreans whose cultivation realm was far higher than hers. The battle fell into a stalemate. The blood-robed youth sitting on the chair yawned. He looked at the red-clothed guards not far away and chuckled. With a flick of his finger, a blood-colored energy shot out, blasting a red-clothed guard into a bloody mist. Bastard! Yan Honghua roared, her resentment surging even more fiercely. The blood-robed youth smiled faintly and said, "Back then, you must have felt very helpless when you saw your parents die in front of you. Now, I will let you relive that feeling and watch your comrades die one by one." He killed another red-clothed guard with a flick of his finger. The red-clothed guards wanted to resist, but there was nothing they could do. Under the blood-robed youth's might, they could not move at all. They could only stay where they were, being hit by the blood-colored energy shot out from his fingertips. Bang, 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 bloody mists exploded one after another. Yan Honghua was furious, but no matter how hard she tried, she could not defeat these Empyreans working together. How is it? Are you angry? Powerless? It must feel bad to watch your comrades die one after another. The blood-robed youth laughed loudly, and the energy shot out from his fingertips became faster and faster. Just as despair shrouded Yan Honghua and every red-clothed guard's heart, a bone-chilling voice suddenly rang out. "You seem to be having fun." As soon as the voice finished speaking, the blood-colored energy shot towards the red-clothed guards was shattered by an invisible force. Right on the heels of that, a killing intent so cold that it made every single blood race cultivator present shudder descended from the sky. Chapter 748. An intense murderous intent descended from the sky and enveloped everyone present. All the blood tribe cultivators felt their scalps tingle. The red-robed guards looked up and saw a white figure descending from the sky. The aura emanating from his body shook the entire planet. It's Brother Chu. Bai Lichuan's eyes were filled with hope. Chu Kuangren's appearance was like a ray of light that completely swept away the despair. "He's here." The blood tribe Heavenly Honorable's expressions changed slightly. Chu Kuangren was the ruler of the battlefield. They had heard many rumors about him in the past few months. As long as he appeared, the blood tribe would suffer a crushing defeat. To the firmament star cultivators, Chu Kuangren was the god of war, the light of hope. As long as he appeared, all difficulties would be easily solved. To the blood tribe, however, he was the god of death who would only bring despair. "He's finally taken the bait. Retreat." The blood-robed young man glanced at Chu Kuangren. The aura emanating from Chu Kuangren made it impossible for him to resist. He took out a white crystal. It was a teleportation crystal. It could instantly teleport him back to the blood tribe headquarters from hundreds of millions of miles away. However, when he crushed the crystal and tried to leave, he realized that the surrounding space had been sealed by an invisible force. Unknowingly, a cage-like enchanted boundary had appeared around him. It was the realm-sealing Taoist weapon. Not good. The blood-robed young man's expression instantly changed into panic and helplessness. Initially, he had planned to execute this plan with the help of this teleportation crystal in his hand. It would allow him to leave freely. However, he did not expect this to happen. Chu Kuangren glanced at the crowd. Then, the descendant's self-sword on his waist automatically unsheathed itself and blasted the heavenly honorables who were surrounding Yan Honghua away with a terrifying force. Those with slightly weaker cultivation bases exploded into a mist of blood on the spot. He then grabbed Yan Honghua in front of him. The spirit of omniscience, Xiao AI, activated to analyze her current situation. Brother Chu, I've absorbed too much resentment. There's no way I can survive this. I'll leave the red-robed guards to you. Yan Honghua said in a hoarse voice. Don't worry, you won't die. Chu Kuangren stretched out his 5 fingers and aimed his palm at Yan Honghua. A majestic suction force erupted and absorbed the resentment within her body. Brother Chu, you can't? Yan Honghua's expression changed. This resentment was so boundless that it was hard to imagine. She had used some kind of secret technique to activate it, but even so, it was still difficult for her to escape death. However, Chu Kuangren was unprepared for it. Even a top-notch heavenly honorable would not be able to withstand it. Don't move. Chu Kuangren shouted. Quick, kill him. When the blood-robed young man saw that Chu Kuangren was helping Yan Honghua resolve her grievous qi problem, he immediately wanted to take this opportunity to kill him. In any case, with the realm sealing seal, they could no longer escape. He might as well give it his all. If they could kill Chu Kuangren, that would be a great achievement. When that happened, not only would he be promoted, the entire Sanguine race would view him as a hero. The Blood King would also favor him. At the thought of this, the scarlet-robed young man's eyes lit up. He attacked. He rushed out together with the other Empyreans. A dark red spear appeared in his hand, and surging energy fluctuations spread out. Blood Dragon Stab. Storm God Slash. The Empyreans unleashed their techniques and attacked Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground calmly. An invisible barrier was formed. The Empyreans' attacks landed on the barrier, but it did not even cause a ripple. How is this possible? This power. While the Empyreans were still in shock, Chu Kuangren gently lifted his arm. His Emperor's Qi Daoist patterns intertwined, and his mini-world energy surged. Purple chains emerged from the void, and the world lock appeared once again. The Empyreans dodged left and right, but they could not escape the world lock's pursuit. Soon they were tightly bound by it. This power, how can it be? The scarlet-robed young man and the others were in disbelief. No matter what, they were still top-notch Empyreans, yet they could not fight back against Chu Kuangren at all. How could they believe this? However, the truth was right in front of them, and the world lock that bound them proved it. No matter what they did, they could not move Chu Kuangren at all. So, Chu Kuangren absorbed all the grievous qi in Yan Honghua's body into his own. He did not seem to be affected at all. The grievous qi had been completely refined into spiritual power and Emperor's qi. Grievous qi was also a type of strange energy. Most cultivators would not be able to control this energy, but it was nothing to Chu Kuangren, who had the universal cauldron physique. It was a nutrient for his cultivation. After absorbing the grievous qi, Chu Kuangren slowly walked to the blood-robed young man with a cold gaze. You seem to be having fun just now. As soon as he said that, a sword qi slashed across. A bone-deep sword wound appeared on the blood-robed young man's body, and fresh blood gushed out continuously. No matter how much the blood-robed young man channeled his Emperor's qi to suppress it, it was useless. He looked at Chu Kuangren in horror. What are you trying to do? Didn't you guys use Yan Honghua as bait to lure me here? I should be the one asking you what you're trying to do. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Not only was the blood-robed young man not surprised that he was here, but he even calmly took out his teleportation crystal and tried to leave. If Chu Kuangren had not used the realm-sealing seal to seal the space, that person would have escaped. Obviously, the other party was prepared for Chu Kuangren's arrival. In fact, Chu Kuangren's arrival was their goal. What am I going to do? I'm going to kill you, of course. Knowing that he had no chance of survival, the blood-robed young man decided to go all out with a ferocious smile on his face. Unfortunately, you'll die before you can kill me, Chu Kuangren said as he gently lifted his finger. Surges of sword qi traveled through the void, and the heavenly honorables who were bound by the world lock were soon shredded into clouds of blood mist by the sword chi. This was especially true for the blood-robed young man. Countless surges of sword chi circled around his body and continuously sliced off his flesh. Not long after, the blood-robed young man's body was left with a bloody skeleton. What was more terrifying was that the blood tribe young man's head was still connected to his body. He was not completely dead yet, and his consciousness was still there. He could only watch as his flesh was continuously sliced off. Is this game fun? Chu Kuangren said in a calm tone. You'll die a horrible death. The blood-robed young man's broken body trembled. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm and unleashed a surge of energy chi, crushing the young man into pieces. Then he took out a pink bubble. The bubble continued to expand until a crack appeared. It was the secret realm. Chu Kuangren said to Yan Honghua and the others, "You guys go in first." All right. Everyone could vaguely guess what was going on, so they entered the secret realm one after another. Once everyone had entered, Chu Kuangren kept the secret realm. Then, beams of light suddenly erupted from the entire 64th asteroid. Countless Taoist patterns circulated and covered the entire asteroid, forming a huge enchanted boundary that enveloped the entire planet. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by this. I'd like to see how you're going to kill me. Chapter 749. I'd like to see how you're going to kill me. Chu Kuangren said calmly. As soon as he said that, a winged blood tribe man in a white robe suddenly appeared not far away from him. That man exuded an incredibly powerful aura, and every move he made was filled with an oppressive aura that only a superior cultivator could possess. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes at the newcomer. Taoist master. The newcomer was a Taoist master. In the cosmic void around Firmament Star, powerful energy fluctuations erupted from more than 10 planets. The Blood Tribe's Taoist master has made his move. Do you really think we'll just sit back and watch? Let's go! Rays of light shot out one after another. They were heading towards the 64th asteroid. A few of the planets that the Taoist master was on did not move at all. On one of the planets, the heavenly yellow Taoist master was watering his plants and murmuring, "Chu Kuangren, can you survive this?" Chu Kuangren was facing a Taoist master. Of course, he was aware of this. However, he did not plan to make a move. Chu Kuangren's existence was similar to the Luo River and the Heavenly Executioner. It made him feel uneasy, as if his status had been affected. However, he could not attack directly because of the other Taoist masters and his reputation. However, he would not stop the Blood Tribe if they wanted to kill Chu Kuangren. Among the 24 Taoist masters, there were a few who were close to him and took orders from him. They knew what he was thinking, so they did not make a move. He did not care if the other Taoist masters would make a move. The Blood Tribe was fully prepared to kill Chu Kuangren this time. Even the Taoist masters would not be able to save Chu Kuangren easily. In the cosmos, the Taoist master turned into a ray of light and flew past. The Taoist master's speed was so fast that it only took him a few breaths to cross a few billion kilometers and arrive outside the 64th asteroid. However, there were countless Taoist runes circulating on the outer layer of the asteroid, forming a golden light barrier that prevented the Taoist master from entering. Destroy! The Dharma Taoist master snorted. However, just as the Taoist masters were about to attack, a dozen powerful energy fluctuations erupted in the cosmos. A blood-colored light beam that contained a vast amount of Emperor's Qi and Taoist runes charged towards the Dharma Taoist master. Even the Dharma Taoist master could not help but be pushed back a few hundred meters. He looked into the distance. More than a dozen figures appeared outside the golden barrier of light, and every one of them emanated energy waves that were not inferior to a Tao Lord's. 13 Blood Kings. The myriad arts Tao Master's eyes darkened. The newcomers were none other than the 13 Blood Kings of the Blood Race, as well as other hidden Tao Lords. There were 18 of them in total. 18 Tao Lords. It could be said that the Tao Lords of the Blood Race had turned out in full force. Looks like you guys are really willing to go all out just to kill Chu Kuangren. I suppose most of the Blood Tribe Taoists have arrived. The Myriad Laws Tao Master said coldly. If Chu Kuangren doesn't die, how can the Blood Tribe rest in peace? King Ming said coldly. Chu Kuangren was too much of a threat to the Blood Tribe. It could even be said that if Chu Kuangren did not die and was given more time to grow, the Blood Tribe would never have the chance to invade Firmament Star again. The Firmament Star might even take over. How could the Blood Kings sit still? No, the entire Blood Tribe could not sit idly by and watch Chu Kuangren grow. Then let's start a full-scale war. The Myriad Laws Path Master snorted coldly. Without another word, he lifted his arm and streaks of mystical Taoist patterns spread out with him as the center, covering half of the universe. He then pointed his finger forward, and the countless Taoist patterns contracted to form a giant finger shadow. Its surging energy locked onto King Ming. King Ming snorted and unleashed a punch of his own. There was a loud explosion. The destructive energy produced by the Tao Lord spread out to a radius of 10 million kilometers. Asteroids exploded one after another, and a large amount of gales swept up in the surroundings. Fight! The other Tao Lords had also begun their battle. For a moment, the cold and silent universe seemed to be lit up. Rays of flames of different colors were unleashed. Inside the 64th asteroid, Chu Kuangren faced off against a Tao Lord all by himself. The spirit of omniscience, Xiao AI, activated. Analyzing target, soon, Chu Kuangren found out who the Tao Lord before him was. The Blood Tribe's White King, Bai Juoxin's father. Heh, I didn't expect you to personally come to seek revenge. Chu Kuangren chuckled. I can't believe you can still laugh. White King said indifferently. Why not? This is the first time I've fought against a Tao Lord. It's a memorable day. A long-lost battle intent surfaced in Chu Kuangren's eyes. The killing intent and battle intent that he had accumulated on the battlefield for months suddenly erupted. The entire planet shook violently because of this surge of energy. A strange look flashed across White King's eyes as he said, not a bad battle intent, but this is your first time fighting against a Tao Lord, and it'll be your last too. At the end of his sentence, a surge of killing intent also erupted from White King's body. It was bone-chilling, and it sent chills down one's spine. This battle was not only for the sake of avenging his son's death, but also for the future of the entire Blood Tribe. No matter which one it was, Chu Kuangren must not be left alive. Let's fight. Chu Kuangren shouted and unsheathed the Descendant Self-Sword at his waist. White King had also taken out a giant axe. It was a dark red giant axe that was covered in dense Taoist patterns. When the sword and the axe collided, the terrifying impact immediately tore apart half of the 64th asteroid, almost tearing it in half. With a crack, a crisp sound rang in Chu Kuangren's ears. A crack appeared on the Descendant Self-Sword. Chu Kuangren's pupils shrunk. The Descendant Self-Sword had accompanied him in battles for many years, and it had continuously improved along with his cultivation. It had never been damaged before, but he did not expect it to be damaged in the first exchange with a Tao Lord. Chu Kuangren clenched his left hand into a fist, and the Starlight Immortal Physique's physical strength was pushed to its limit as he punched White King away. Then he kept the Descendant Self-Sword away. Your weapon is too weak. White King snorted, and the dark red giant axe in his hand emanated a terrifying aura. It was a Taoist weapon. Heh, I'm already at a disadvantage in terms of weapons. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then his gaze froze. He raised his hand to gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, and a giant colorful rune appeared in the void. It was the Heavenly Nine Dragons transformation. The rune gathered the spiritual chi and turned it into a giant colorful dragon chi that rushed towards Chu Kuangren and merged into his body. That move instantly absorbed all the spiritual chi within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers from the 64th asteroid. With the help of the dragon chi, Chu Kuangren's aura continued to rise. Thousand Taoist Avatar. A colorful Dharma avatar formed behind Chu Kuangren. The 1,000-meter-tall Dharma avatar stood tall, and its majestic aura broke through the clouds. The entire 64th asteroid also began to collapse because of that power. Floods erupted, and a large amount of underground magma gushed out. Come, let's fight again. Chu Kuangren controlled the Dharma avatar and punched out. White King snorted coldly, and with his giant axe in hand, he swung it towards the Dharma avatar. Taoist patterns gathered within it, forming an axe ray. When the two forces collided, the entire asteroid could no longer withstand it. What followed was a shocking explosion. The asteroid exploded and shattered into countless pieces. However, the surrounding golden light barrier did not disappear, and it still isolated Chu Kuangren and White King within it. It was as if it was a dual arena built for the two of them. Chapter 750. In the Universe. Inside the golden enchanted boundary. The battle between Chu Kuangren and White King had completely destroyed the entire number 64 asteroid. A large amount of chaotic energy waves mixed with flames surrounded the two and violently attacked the enchanted boundary. However, the Blood Tribe had put in a lot of effort to set up this enchanted boundary. It was not something that could be destroyed by an asteroid explosion. Chu Kuangren, you're no match for the Taoist master. King White roared and swung the giant axe in his hand. A 1,000,000-meter-long axe ray covered in mysterious Taoist patterns shot out. Even with Chu Kuangren's 10,000 avatars and the power of his mini-realm, he was still blasted thousands of kilometers away and smashed into the golden enchanted boundary. Is this the power of a Taoist master? Tsk, how powerful! Although Chu Kuangren was at a disadvantage, he did not feel discouraged at all. On the contrary, the battle intent in his eyes grew stronger. He had not felt pressure for a long time. Fight again. Reversal of heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren's Tao of invincibility and ultimate emperor essence were activated to the extreme, and the 10,000 avatars behind him blasted out an invincible technique. The power of the avatars combined with the power of the ultimate mystery and turned into a colorful light beam. Wherever it went, the sun and moon were overturned and the cosmos shattered. This person's combat strength is beyond my imagination. White King's eyes revealed a hint of seriousness. With his giant axe in hand, he let out a low growl and channeled his Taoist master's power. The Taoist patterns intertwined and turned into an axe ray that smashed the colorful light beam. The powerful impact once again blasted Chu Kuangren away. However, what surprised White King was that Chu Kuangren had already taken a few of his attacks head-on. Logically speaking, no matter how strong his physical body was, it should have been shattered by that attack. Yet he was unscathed. Not only that, but his battle intent was also getting stronger. What the hell is going on? White King was shocked. He felt that other than spatial techniques, 10,000 avatars, and physical strength, Chu Kuangren still had a trump card that the Blood Tribe did not know about. The White King swung his giant axe. Numerous axe lights that were hundreds of millions of meters long pierced through the heavens and the earth, and every single strike carried a supreme force that was sufficient to shatter stars. Boom, boom, boom. Although Chu Kuangren's 10,000 Taoist avatar tried its best to resist the attack, it still could not withstand the Taoist master's mighty power. On the Dharma idol, the countless Tao patterns exploded under the axe light. The entire Dharma idol fell apart. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, was struck by the axe ray. Even his immortal stellar physique could not withstand it, and a huge wound was torn open on his body. Let's see if you can still die this time. King White snorted coldly. But then his pupils suddenly shrank. Chu Kuangren, who had been torn by the axe ray, stood in the air. The huge wound on his body was rapidly healing in a way that he could not understand, and in the blink of an eye, it was back to its original state. King White was dumbfounded. What was going on? It wasn't like he had never seen a self-healing ability before. However, the weaker a living being was, the more obvious its self-healing ability was. The higher one's cultivation was, the more difficult it would be for one's physical body to recover from injuries. Once an Empyrean was severely injured, it would require countless resources to recover. It was unknown how long it would take to recover on its own. Thousands or tens of thousands of years would be an understatement. For example, the heavenly executioners. After these Taoists were severely injured during the battle against the rebel gods, their injuries had not fully recovered even after 12 eras. Since Chu Kuangren was an Empyrean, it would take him some resources to recover after he was severely injured. How could he recover in the blink of an eye? That was impossible. King White's Emperor's thoughts surged as he sensed Chu Kuangren's aura. He realized that Chu Kuangren was not just recovering on the surface, but had fully recovered. Impossible. How can there be such a self-healing ability? Is it an immortal body? King White murmured in a daze. However, that moment of distraction gave Chu Kuangren an opportunity. He cast the spatial conveyor technique and arrived in front of his opponent. Then, he activated the ultimate technique and punched his opponent's chest. However, King White was still a Taoist master, so he quickly recovered from his shock and blocked Chu Kuangren's attack. However, the huge force still sent him flying. The arm that blocked the punch felt numb, and his bones felt like they were broken. King White, who had never been injured for countless years, felt this heart-wrenching pain, and his face immediately contorted. "I don't care if you have an immortal body or not. I'm going to kill you," he roared as he channeled his Taoist master's strength to its limit. He swung the giant axe in his hand. Chu Kuangren laughed. With the advantage of his immortal body, he did not care about defense and attacked with an extremely violent attack. Sometimes, he would even trade injury for injury. Chu Kuangren was injured. However, he recovered in the next second. However, King White's injury was real. It was so painful that his face twitched. It was proven that even a Taoist master who had lived for countless years was no different from an ordinary person when he was injured. This was especially true when he hadn't been injured for countless years. When he was injured again, the intense and unfamiliar pain was enough to drive him crazy. After a series of crazy battles, some of the planetary remains inside the golden enchanted boundary had turned into cosmic dust. Chu Kuangren stood in the void. His white clothes were torn and stained with blood, but he was not injured at all. On the other hand, King White's hair was disheveled and there were a few bloody wounds on his body. Impossible! How can there be an immortal body in this world? You must have a weakness. I refuse to believe that I can't kill you. King White gritted his teeth and said. In the battle just now, he had tried to tear off Chu Kuangren's arm, shatter his internal organs, and crush his heart. However, all of that was useless. Chu Kuangren would fully recover in the next instant. This matter was simply inconceivable to the extreme. Weakness? Heh, of course I have a weakness. If you can turn me into countless particles in an instant, you might be able to kill me. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He used the word, might. That was because even he did not know if he would die if he was turned into particles. He was now at the 5th level of the immortal body. Particle rebirth. In other words, he could resurrect even if he was turned into particles. However, this particle was very delicate. A millimeter was a particle, and a molecule was also a particle. How much would he have to beat him before he would die? Chu Kuangren did not know either. Nonsense. King White's expression darkened. Chu Kuangren's strength was comparable to a Taoist master's. Coupled with his strong physical body, it would be difficult to tear him into pieces. Not to mention turning him into particles. That was impossible. Furthermore, particle rebirth? Such a thing was unimaginable, and he did not want to believe it. Since I can't kill you, I'll just seal you up and capture you for research. King White snorted. He raised his hand and countless mysterious Taoist patterns began to circulate. These Taoist patterns intertwined and turned into a chain that emanated a powerful sealing fluctuation. Too bad you won't get the chance. Chu Kuangren said. Let's try. King White threw the Taoist pattern chain in his hand. However, at that moment, an extremely vast fluctuation suddenly erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. It was like a majestic heavenly might that shook the universe. Chapter 751. Outside the golden enchanted boundary. The Blood King was battling the firmament star Downlords. Horrifying energy ripples spread in all directions. Some of the asteroids could not withstand such horrifying energy and exploded one after another. Haha, Dharma Downlord, it's been almost a day since the enchanted boundary rose. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren is, do Do you think he can last a day against a Tao Lord? Wisdom King laughed with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Not bad. Chu Kuangren's strength was indeed unparalleled. However, he was still below the Tao Lord. Even if he had the strength to fight a Tao Lord, an entire day had passed, and he was facing one of the 13 Blood Kings. Wisdom King and the others did not think that Chu Kuangren would be a match for White King. Even the Dharma Tao Lord and the others could not help but feel their hearts sink. A day had passed. Could Chu Kuangren hold on? The enchanted boundary hasn't disappeared yet, which means that White King hasn't killed Chu Kuangren yet. What are you guys so proud of? The Dharma Tao Lord snorted, but he did not show any signs of worry. It was more important to stay calm at times like this. That's right. Do you think Chu Kuangren is that easy to kill? Forget a day, even if you have 10 more days, I don't think White King can kill Chu Kuangren. Who knows, Chu Kuangren might even be able to kill White King. One of the Firmament Star Tao Lords said loudly. He was the demonic bull Tao Lord of the demonic ox lineage. He had horns on his head and a nose ring on his nose. He looked like an honest man. Seeing that everyone was rooting for Chu Kuangren, he spoke up too. However, as soon as he said that, everyone looked at him strangely. Hey, that's too much. Killing a Tao Lord? How is that possible? Although the Dharma Tao Lord and the others were very confident in Chu Kuangren and felt that he would definitely be able to change the situation of the extraterrestrial battlefield in the future, however, he was still a heavenly honorable. The difference between a heavenly honorable and a Tao Lord was like heaven and earth. The demonic bull Tao Lord also felt that he had gone overboard. However, since he had said it, would he not retract it now? What are you looking at? Chu Kuangren is the most outstanding sky pride in the history of Firmament Star. It's not impossible for him to kill a Tao Lord who's one realm higher. The demonic bull Tao Lord raised his head and said, Killing a Tao Lord? How can you say something like that? King Ming was disdainful. Although he said that, he could not help but feel uneasy. Why would the White King fight with Chu Kuangren for so long? What was this guy doing? Cut the crap. It doesn't matter if Chu Kuangren is dead or alive today, we won't let this matter rest. The Dharma Taoist master said coldly. Just as the two sides were about to continue fighting, a strange fluctuation suddenly came from the golden barrier, causing everyone to be startled. What is this energy fluctuation? Heavenly Tao? That's impossible. There aren't any living creatures on this planet. How could a heavenly way be born? What's going on? The Blood Kings were extremely astonished. Vaguely, King Ming felt even more uneasy. The Path Master of 10,000 Laws and the others seemed to have thought of something, and their eyes flickered. Inside the golden enchanted boundary, the Taoist chain that White King had flung out was repelled by the powerful heavenly Tao fluctuations that emanated from Chu Kuangren's body. He stared at Chu Kuangren and could not help but narrow his eyes in shock. Heavenly Axiom. Impossible, how can you be the Heavenly Axiom? The Heavenly Tao was something that could only be produced by a planet with life. It was an amalgamation of the will of the planet and countless living creatures. The Bloodgore Star also had its own Heavenly Tao. Although it was different from the Firmament Star's Heavenly Tao, White King would never mistake it for something else. The fluctuations that emanated from Chu Kuangren's body were definitely the Heavenly Tao. He could not imagine it. How could a person emit Heavenly Tao fluctuations? Don't tell me he's merged with the Heavenly Tao like the Blood God. No, that's impossible. The Blood God has yet to awaken after merging with the Heavenly Tao. He's not even a Tao Lord yet, so how can he merge with the Heavenly Tao? White King was completely dumbfounded. He could not understand why Chu Kuangren was not even a Tao Lord, yet he had so many trump cards that even the Tao Lord found unbelievable. Chu Kuangren's immortal body was already scary enough. Now, he had even summoned a surge of Heavenly Tao energy. This is the first time I'm using this state against an enemy. Chu Kuangren's emotionless voice was so calm that it was terrifying. He was now in the converging Tao state. The Firmament Star's Heavenly Tao energy was at his disposal. He felt that he had never felt so powerful before. Every move he made was filled with the majestic might of the heavens. Countless Taos would be suppressed in front of him. Junior realm, open? Chu Kuangren said calmly. A junior realm that was merged with the heavenly Tao energy opened up and enveloped White King within, completely suppressing his Daos. D***, my Daos are being suppressed. White King's expression changed. He was a Tao Lord, so only a Tao Lord with a higher cultivation level could suppress his Daos. However, Chu Kuangren had done it as a heavenly honorable. That was because he was now the heavenly Tao. All the known Daos originated from the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao naturally suppressed all Daos. Fortunately, White King was not a Firmament Star Tao Lord. Otherwise, he would have been suppressed even more by the Firmament Star's heavenly Tao. Blood-devouring slash. White King roared and swung his giant axe at Chu Kuangren. He used all his strength in that attack. However, under the heavenly Tao's suppression, he could not unleash his full strength. Heavenly reversal. Chu Kuangren unleashed a punch. The ultimate technique that was merged with the heavenly Tao energy increased its power by more than a level, instantly shattering the axe ray. King White was sent flying by the force. D***. Blood primal force, burn. White King knew that he had to use his final trump card. His body was engulfed in blood-colored flames, and his aura surged crazily. Illusory 7 Emotions Song. At that moment, Chu Kuangren pointed a finger at him from afar, and a mysterious Taoist fluctuation that seemed to transcend the heavenly Tao spread out. That finger caused White King's emotions to fluctuate violently. Countless memories surged in his mind, some sad, some happy. He thought of his wife who had died many years ago. His wife was gentle and sweet. However, when he was young, he focused on his cultivation and neglected her. In the end, his wife died of depression. Meanwhile, he was in closed-door meditation. He did not even get to see her one last time. Then he thought of his son. To nurture his son, he threw him into the cruelest battlefield to train. He had 7 sons, but in the end, only one was left. That person was Bai Juexin. But now, Bai Juexin was also dead. At that thought, White King could not help but tear up. His original battle intent was also rapidly diminishing. What's going on? Why am I suddenly thinking about these things? However, White King suddenly regained his senses. He stared at Chu Kuangren, sensing the Taoist fluctuation that emanated from his body. He gulped, extremely shocked. Immortal technique. To be able to break free from the influence of the illusory 7 Emotions song so quickly, should I say that you're indeed a Taoist master? Chu Kuangren said. Impossible, this is impossible. How can Firmament Star have immortal techniques? There are only 2 immortal technique civilizations in the entire Purple Gold Galaxy. How can Firmament Star have immortal techniques? White King roared in disbelief. Chapter 752. Immortal Technique. A Taoist technique used by immortals. White King stared at Chu Kuangren in shock as his pupils trembled violently. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, fell silent when he heard that. Immortal Technique Civilization? The entire Purple Gold Galaxy? It was the first time he had heard of such a term. However, White King had already used all his strength to rush out of the golden enchanted boundary while Chu Kuangren was deep in thought. He was trying to escape. Even after burning his blood primordial energy, he no longer had any intention to fight. Immortal body. Heavenly Tao energy. Now, another immortal technique had appeared. White King swore that this was the first time he had encountered such a freak that could not be measured by common sense. He must have been out of his mind to think of dealing with Chu Kuangren back then. Now, all he wanted was to get as far away from Chu Kuangren as possible. He turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the enchanted boundary. Just as he was about to reach the enchanted boundary, he took out a jade token and threw it out. It was a token to enter and exit the enchanted boundary. Heh, don't you think it's a little too late to leave now? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. With a lift of his arm, the heavenly Tao energy flowed and combined with the Taoist Emperor's Qi to form a purple world lock. Outside the golden enchanted boundary, the appearance of the heavenly Tao energy stopped the Taoists from attacking. At that moment, A figure rushed out of the golden enchanted boundary. The Blood Kings were delighted to see that figure. It's White King. White King has come out. It seems that he has successfully killed Chu Kuangren. As expected, that guy is no match for White King. The Blood Kings laughed out loud. On the other hand, the Firmament Star Cultivator's expressions darkened. D***. Could Chu Kuangren really be dead? The Dharma Taoist master was so furious that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. That was a power that could dominate the extraterrestrial battlefields in the future. Something's not right. White King's expression doesn't look right. Suddenly, King Farsighted noticed something. Although White King had come out, his aura was chaotic and his face was filled with panic. It was as if he was running for his life. White King was running for his life. Save me! White King yelled in panic. However, before King Farsighted and the others could do anything, several purple chains rushed out from the golden enchanted boundary. Tao patterns flowed on the chain, and it was extremely mysterious. The purple chain caught up to King White at an extremely fast speed and tightly wrapped around him. Then, it pulled him into the golden barrier. Even with White King Tao Master's cultivation realm, he was unable to resist. Save me! Save me! King White roared at King Ming and the others. The Wisdom Monarch and the others immediately made their move as well. They wanted to attack the chains, but the myriad spells Tao Lord and the others clearly would not give them the chance. You want to save him? No way. Looks like the White King is going to give it away for free. The myriad arts Tao Lord and the demonic bull Tao Lord looked excited. Although they did not know what was happening inside the golden enchanted boundary, they could guess that Chu Kuangren had gained the upper hand when they saw that White King was at a disadvantage. Therefore, they couldn't let anyone interfere. Damn it. King Ming watched as King White was dragged back into the barrier by the chains. He finally confirmed that the uneasiness in his heart was not an illusion. What had Chu Kuangren done? It had actually caused a Tao Lord to become so terrified that he had even disregarded his image and shouted for help. Inside the golden barrier, Chu Kuangren manipulated the world lock to drag King White back. It's too late for you to run away. He gently raised his arm. Behind him, the 10,000 Taoist avatar that was infused with the heavenly Tao's energy soared into the air and slammed its palm towards his opponent. King White roared and channeled his full strength, but that palm still blasted him away and sent him crashing into the barrier. However, he could not break free from the world lock. The 10,000 Taoist avatar behind Chu Kuangren attacked one after another. The Taoist patterns on King White's emperor's body continued to shatter and explode. Soon, his body was on the verge of collapse. Originally, King White would not have been defeated so quickly with his strength. However, he had been scared silly by Chu Kuangren's endless trump cards, and his will to fight had been worn down by the seven emotions' illusory melody. That was why a Tao Lord could only passively take a beating. Not long after, King White's emperor's body crumbled, and he was on the verge of death. Chu Kuangren grabbed the White King's axe and walked towards him. There was not the slightest hint of emotion in his indifferent eyes. An axe ray flashed past. The Blood Tribe's ruler had fallen. Outside the golden enchanted boundary, the Blood Kings and the Firmament Star Tao Lords were engaged in a fierce battle. Suddenly, the golden enchanted boundary was hit by an extremely powerful force. Then, countless cracks began to appear on the entire golden enchanted boundary. Amidst the explosion, the entire enchanted boundary shattered into countless light spots. A white figure slowly walked out. That person was tall and slender. His clothes were as white as snow, and his jet-black hair fluttered in the wind. He was extremely handsome, and every move he made carried an unfathomable aura. Chu Kuangren. He's carrying King White. Chu Kuangren stepped through the air and approached them. In his hand was a head. It was King White. Chu Kuangren had killed King White. Although the Blood Kings had expected it, they could not help but be shocked when they saw it for themselves. Chu Kuangren had really killed a Tao Lord. I told you guys that Brother Chu could kill a Tao Lord, but you guys didn't believe me. Now you've seen it for yourself. The bull demon Tao Lord laughed. Although he was just bragging earlier, now no one could refute him. The truth was right in front of them. Chu Kuangren came before the Blood Kings, raised his hand, and threw the head in his hand at them before unleashing a surge of energy chi. In front of the Blood Kings, he crushed King White's head into dust. This one's too weak. Is there anyone stronger among you guys? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The Blood Kings stared at him in shock and confusion. What was wrong with this person? Why was there a fluctuation of the heavenly Tao? Also, did he really fight King White? Why was he not injured at all? Not even his clothes were damaged. They were so clean that not a speck of dust could be seen. What did that mean? It meant that King White did not even have the strength to scratch the corner of his clothes. Countless thoughts flashed through the Wisdom King and the others' minds. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that Chu Kuangren was too terrifying. How could he kill a Tao Lord so easily? Retreat. The Wisdom King growled before he led the others away. Chu Kuangren did not give chase. That was because he had expended a lot of energy. Now that a half-step Tao Lord had appeared, it would be difficult for him to fight. Not to mention killing a group of Tao Lords. Looks like I managed to fool them. Chu Kuangren murmured. That was right. His current stance was all an act. The heavenly Tao's aura was real, but it was just a facade. The clean white robe he was wearing was something he changed into when he exited the enchanted boundary. As for his lack of injuries, how could an immortal body be injured? That was the most important point. The Blood Kings only realized how terrifying he was because he was not injured at all. He was able to kill King White without a scratch. However, if they thought about it carefully, they would realize that if he was really that powerful, he would not have fought King White for an entire day. However, they were too shocked by King White's death that they did not think too much about it. No matter what, it was true that Chu Kuangren had killed a Tao Lord. That alone was enough to make them fearful. Chapter 753. Brother Chu, you're just too amazing. Bull Demon walked up to Chu Kuangren and said. The other Taoists looked at Chu Kuangren in shock as well. It was their first time hearing of a heavenly honorable killing a Taoist master. The talent and strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was just too shocking. Let's leave first. On a certain planet, a powerful surge of energy suddenly erupted, and the entire planet was instantly destroyed as if a storm had ravaged all the flora and fauna on the planet. Countless leaves and rocks danced in the air. The heavenly yellow Taoist master had a ferocious look on his face. D****. How did Chu Kuangren kill a Taoist master? He could not believe it. This made him even more eager to kill Chu Kuangren. Except for the heavenly yellow Taoist master. When the Blood Kings returned to the Blood Tribe's headquarters, they finally regained their senses. No, Chu Kuangren's strength is not as strong as we thought. Otherwise, how could he have fought against the White King for so long? Then why isn't there a single wound on his body? It might be some kind of healing treasure. The Blood King's expressions turned grim. They had realized that they had been tricked by Chu Kuangren. However, even if Chu Kuangren did not trick them, they would still have no choice but to retreat. Besides, Chu Kuangren, the Dharma Taoist master, and the others were still eyeing them. The White King is dead. What should we do now? One of the Blood Kings said in a low voice. Chu Kuangren must be eliminated. If we don't, we won't be able to fight this war, and the future of the Blood Tribe will be threatened by him. The Wisdom King had a determined look in his eyes. I plan to activate the Blood Abyss to destroy Firmament Star's defenses and Chu Kuangren. The Blood King's expressions changed when they heard that. The Blood Abyss. Activating the Blood Abyss will consume at least half of the Deep Blood planet's current resources. If we don't succeed, the Blood Origin planet won't be able to launch another large-scale battle for a year. Are we really going to do this? If we don't do this, are we just going to sit back and watch Chu Kuangren continue to grow? Besides, activating the Blood Abyss was originally part of our plan. We're just moving it forward by a few years. Well, let's vote. The remaining 12 Blood Kings held a vote on whether or not to open the Blood Abyss. The result was that all 12 votes were in favor. Everyone agreed to open the Blood Abyss. After losing a Tao Lord, the Blood Kings had witnessed Chu Kuangren's potential. If he was left alive and given some time to grow, he would definitely become the most terrifying enemy the Blood Tribe had ever faced. He must kill it in time. Even if he had to pay a huge price to open the Blood Abyss, he would not hesitate. Then let's go back and prepare. In Firmament Star, within Fortress number 17. Chu Kuangren had brought Yan Honghua and the others back safely. Thank you, fellow cultivator Chu. Empyrean Ghost Blade bowed solemnly. You're welcome. I'm ashamed to say this. You were recommended by a benefactor, so I should have been the host. I never expected to cause trouble for you again and again, Heavenly Venerate Ghost Blade said shamefully. Chu Kuangren waved his hand and said, General, we're all fighting for Firmament Star. As long as it's within my capabilities, it's only right for me to help. You don't have to be so polite. Ha, the Firmament Star is blessed to have Brother Chu. They chatted for a while. However, Empyrean Ghost Blade soon realized that something was not right. Beside him, Yan Honghua had been sitting quietly. She did not say a word, but she occasionally stared at the ground as if she was lost in thought. The Empyrean Ghost Blade looked at the ground. There was nothing much to see. Had she been scared silly? War, it's all right now. Empyrean Ghost Blade comforted her. Hearing his voice, Yan Honghua came back to her senses and said, Grandfather, he's dead. The Heavenly Venerate who killed my parents is dead. Yan Honghua said, What happened? Empyrean Ghost Blade's expression changed. Yan Honghua told her grandfather what had happened. For the past few decades, she had been living for revenge and working hard to become stronger. However, that person was now dead. However, she was not the one who killed him. Although it was a pity she had gotten her revenge, that made her feel a little hollow inside. It was as if her motivation to live had suddenly disappeared. War, he's dead. From now on, you don't have to live such a tiring life anymore. Empyrean Ghost Blade comforted her. No, I may have avenged my parents, but the Blood Tribe has yet to be destroyed, and the Firmament Crisis has yet to be resolved. I can't slack off. Yan Honghua seemed to have found a new goal, and her gaze gradually became determined. Empyrean Ghost Blade sighed helplessly. He knew that it was not an easy task to make Yan Honghua relax. Her way of living was different from others. Perhaps that was the reason why she could improve so quickly. Chu Kuangren looked at Yan Honghua with admiration. He quite admired her. General, I'll take my leave then, Chu Kuangren said. All right, since the war is still ongoing, I won't keep you any longer. After leaving Fort number 17, Chu Kuangren returned to Fort number 31 and collected a batch of resources from Luo Shui. The battle with the Tao Lord had consumed too much of his energy, so it would take him 5 to 6 days to recover to his peak state. If it were someone else, they might not even be able to recover in a year and a half. 2 days later, Chu Kuangren had absorbed a batch of spirit marrow elixirs and was almost fully recovered. He began to summarize his gains from the battle. Aside from killing White King, the most important thing he got was that great axe. It was a Tao weapon. Moreover, it was a Tao weapon that was more advanced than the realm-sealing seal. It's a pity that my Descendant Self-Sword is gone. Chu Kuangren took out the Descendant Self-Sword and stroked the crack on it with his fingertip. A hint of heartache appeared in his eyes. Since the beginning of his journey, the Descendant Self-Sword had accompanied him all the way to where he was today. It was his most important combat partner. To him, no other Tao weapon could compare to his Descendant Self-Sword. No, forget about Tao weapons. He would not trade it even for an immortal weapon. Yet now, it had a crack on it from White King's attack. At that thought, he could not wait to kill White King a dozen more times. No matter how he looked at that axe, he just could not stand it. Stupid axe. He lifted the axe with one foot and kicked it away. Are you throwing a tantrum? Luo Shui happened to be walking towards him and dodged the flying axe. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a hint of surprise in her eyes. She had never seen him throw a tantrum before. All this while, Chu Kuangren had always given off a calm and safe vibe on the battlefield. She had never seen him lose control of his emotions. More or less. Chu Kuangren took a deep breath and said calmly, He kept the Descendant Self-Sword. Luo Shui's eyes were sharp and he noticed the cracks on the Kuan Wu sword. Could it be that you're troubled over this sword? I remember one of the 24 Taoist masters. The Scarlet Sun Taoist master is an expert in equipment refinement. Perhaps he can help you. Luo Shui said. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he heard that. Scarlet Sun Taoist master. I wonder where he is? I'll ask around for you. Then, Luo Shui contacted the Dharma Taoist master. Chapter 754. The Dharma sect master said that the Crimson Sun sect master is currently at asteroid number 103. He will send the star map over later. Luo Shui contacted the Dharma sect master. Not long after, the communication compass at Luo Shui's waist vibrated. A light pattern appeared, and a star map appeared. After Chu Kuangren took the star map, he immediately set off for the destination. Asteroid number 103. Because the Crimson Sun sect master lived here, this asteroid was also known as the Crimson Sun asteroid. It was a second-class planet, so it was not a big one. It was only about 1,000th of the firmament star's size. Crimson Sun asteroid. The Crimson Sun sect master sensed Chu Kuangren's arrival immediately. Without delay, he came out to greet him. Brother Chu, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. Greetings, Brother Crimson Sunday. Chu Kuangren bowed slightly. The Crimson Sun sect master had the Crimson Sun Taoist physique. He was the first person to possess such a physique since the beginning of the firmament star's cultivation civilization. Not only him, but the other sect masters were also the same. For example, the Black-Yellow sect master and the Chaos sect master were the first heavenly golden imperial physiques and the first chaos physiques in the firmament star. The Crimson Sun sect master did not find it strange that Chu Kuangren addressed him as a peer. Since Chu Kuangren could kill a sect master, it was normal for him to address him as a peer. If Chu Kuangren were to address him as a senior, he would not be able to accept it. Brother Chu, I've learned the reason why you're here from the Dharma sect master. Can you let me take a look at your sword? Of course. Chu Kuangren took out the Descendant Self-Sword. The Crimson Sun sect master took the Descendant Self-Sword and examined it carefully. This sword contains a sword soul, and this sword soul seems to have been blessed by fate. It's much stronger than ordinary sword souls. Not bad, but the material is a little inferior. The Descendant Self-Sword was originally just an ordinary sage weapon. It only had its current achievements under Chu Kuangren's nurturing. The sword's soul had also been nourished by the purple haze when he became a sage, so its soul power was much stronger than ordinary sword souls. However, this could not cover the shortcomings of its material. Brother Crimson Sun, can you repair this sword? Of course. Chu Kuangren's reply and his furrowed brows relaxed. By the way, I heard that fellow Taoist Chu possesses a secret realm? Yes. It's like this. I once obtained a refining technique by chance. It can integrate a secret realm into a weapon, greatly increasing the weapon's power. I wonder if you're interested in giving it a try? I see, Chu Kuangren pondered for a moment. If you don't mind my asking, Brother Qiyang, what are your chances of successfully merging the secret realm into your sword? That's hard to say. It depends on the material used to forge the artifact. The better the material used to forge the artifact, the higher the success rate of merging it into the secret world. Chu Kuangren took out a dark red giant axe. I got this from the White King. Is this good enough as a material? This is a Tao artifact. The Scarlet Sun sect leader carefully observed the giant axe and then said in surprise, this giant axe actually contains primordial purple gold? Pure purple gold? Yes. That's the highest grade of metal known in this galaxy. It can even be compared to immortal gold. It's just that this kind of metal is very rare. This is the first time I've seen it. If I hadn't studied it in the ancient books, I might not have recognized it. The Scarlet Sun sect leader was amazed. To an armament refiner, a good piece of casting material was too hard to come by, not to mention a treasure like the polar purple gold. With this primordial purple gold, I'm at least 70% confident that I can merge the secret realm into it and forge a peerless divine weapon for you, Brother Chu. What if it fails? Chu Kuangren hesitated for a moment before asking. The descendant's self-sword was very important to him, so he could not risk it. Brother Chu, don't worry. Even if it fails, only the material will be damaged. It won't affect the sword's soul in any way. Only then did Chu Kuangren feel relieved. He took out the pink secret realm. Then I'll have to trouble you, Brother Qiyang. This is a rare challenge for me as well. Why don't I say thank you for giving me this opportunity, Brother Chu? Brother Qiyang said with a smile. Secret realm and primordial purple gold. The Scarlet Sun sect leader had a feeling that this would be the most powerful weapon he had ever forged in his life. In the following days, the Blood Tribes stopped their attacks. Chu Kuangren stayed on the Scarlet Sun planet for the time being. A few days later, the Dharma sect leader suddenly came to visit. Brother Chu, how's the weapon forging coming along? Yes, Brother Qiyang is still working on it. I think it'll take some time. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then, the Dharma sect leader asked about what happened on the 64th asteroid that day. Brother Chu, how did you kill the White King? A heavenly honorable had crossed an entire realm to kill a Taoist master. That was unimaginable to the Dharma sect leader. Chu Kuangren concealed some information, such as his immortal body, and briefly explained the battle that day. By the way, have you heard of the Immortal Technique Civilization and the Violet Gold Galaxy? Chu Kuangren asked. The Dharma sect leader's expression gradually turned solemn. I have some understanding of it. As a Taoist master, the Dharma sect leader naturally knew about the galaxy where the firmament star was located. The Violet Gold Galaxy is the name of the galaxy we're currently in. As for the Immortal Technique Civilization, as the name suggests, it's a cultivation civilization that possesses immortal techniques. It's the strongest cultivation civilization in the Violet Gold Galaxy. Not even the Blood Tribe can compare to it. However, the Immortal Technique Civilization is too far away from us. Let's focus on dealing with the Blood Tribe for now. The Blood Tribe was the only extraterritorial cultivation civilization that the firmament star had come into contact with. The Blood Source star was at least 20 light-years away from the firmament star, not to mention the Immortal Technique civilization that was even further away. Has there ever been an immortal technique in the firmament star? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. Legend has it that there once was. A long time ago, when the firmament star was the origin of cultivation, an immortal visited the firmament star and left behind an immortal technique. However, for countless years, no one was able to understand the mysteries of the immortal technique. Later on, a human almighty divided the immortal technique into 9 types of emperor techniques and recorded them in a scroll. Where is that immortal technique now? With the passage of time, the stone wall that recorded the immortal technique has long disappeared into history. The Dharma sect leader shook his head and lamented. Chu Kuangren could not help but feel a little disappointed. He could basically confirm that the immortal technique that the Dharma sect leader was talking about was the Phantom 7 Emotions song. If he could see the stone wall with his own eyes, perhaps it would help him perfect the Phantom 7 Emotions song. Brother Qiyang is still refining. Why don't you have a discussion with me, Brother Chu? The Dharma sect leader suddenly suggested. Upon hearing this, Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. All right. The two sat down and discussed. The Dharma sect leader was the first person in the firmament star to achieve the transcendent coalescence. He knew so many Taoist techniques that it was dazzling. Chu Kuangren also had the transcendent coalescence and had mastered countless Taoist techniques. It was very beneficial to discuss with him. The two's discussion lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. The entire Qiang planet was shrouded in mysterious Taoist patterns. From afar, it looked like a giant light sphere with constantly changing runes. Chapter 755. I'm completely convinced. After the sparring session, the Dharma Taoist master looked at Chu Kuangren and exclaimed in admiration. Discussing the Tao with fellow Taoist myriad arts has greatly benefited me. Brother Chu, your understanding of the Tao is not much weaker than the Taoist masters, And you're only 30 years old this year. This is truly amazing. Given time, you'll definitely become the Taoist master, the heavenly Taoist master, or even cross the threshold and become an unprecedented immortal in the firmament star. There were 3 stages of Tao Lord: Minor Tao Lord, Great Tao Lord, and Heavenly Tao Lord. Above the master of the heavenly law was the deity. The myriad laws Tao Lord was only a mid-stage Minor Tao Lord, and he was still 2 stages away from becoming a Great Tao Lord, let alone becoming an immortal that was above the Great Tao Lords and Heavenly Tao Lords. However, from his point of view, Chu Kuangren could very well become an immortal. Over the years, I've obtained some records from the outer realms. I also know some things about immortals. Immortals are the pillars of a civilization. Only a civilization with immortals has the right to establish itself in this vast universe. A civilization without immortals is incomparably insignificant in this universe. If they encounter some powerful civilizations, they will not be able to put up any resistance and will end up as colonies or slaves to other civilizations. Fellow cultivator Chu, the blood race is not your target, because they don't have immortals. Your true goal is to become an immortal. Once you become an immortal, the blood tribe will be nothing more than a piece of cake. Only when you become an immortal will the firmament star have a brighter future because of you. Only then will it be able to establish itself in the universe. The Dharma Taoist master stared at Chu Kuangren with a fiery gaze. To him, Chu Kuangren was no longer just a talented sky pride cultivator, but the future of the firmament civilization. Chu Kuangren could feel his opponent's burning gaze. That gaze gave him goosebumps even more than some of the female cultivators whose eyes lit up when they saw him. He couldn't help but shiver. He gulped. Fellow Taoist myriad arts, your words really put a lot of pressure on me. I believe in fellow Taoist Chu. The Tao Lord of 10,000 laws calmed his emotions. He also knew that becoming an immortal was not something that could be rushed. No matter how talented Chu Kuangren was, it was impossible for him to become an immortal just because he wanted to. There were not many immortals in the vast universe. Blood Origin Star. The location of the vampire civilization. Today, the remaining 12 Blood Kings had gathered. They came to the holy land of the Blood Origin planet, a towering mountain that was as red as blood, so high that it pierced through the clouds, the Blood God Mountain. There were countless mysterious runes carved on the mountain peak, flowing with waves of fluctuations that made all vampires want to submit. Get ready to begin, King Ming said. The other Blood Kings exchanged looks and took a deep breath. They took out large batches of blood-colored crystals and distributed them around the Blood God. These were all Blood Origin crystals. Moreover, it was several years' worth of production on the Blood Origin planet. After taking out the Blood Origin crystals, the Blood Kings stood in different directions. Then, they chanted a strange incantation emanating a strange fluctuation. The Blood God Mountain began to tremble. The runes on the mountain moved. The energy contained within the countless Blood Origin crystals was completely absorbed by the Blood God Mountain. A resplendent blood-red pillar of light shot into the sky. The pillar of light soared into the sky and broke through the void. Terrifying energy fluctuations spread out, like a stone falling into a calm lake, setting off circles of ripples in the universe. With the Blood Origin planet as the center, billions of miles of the void were affected. The blood abyss has been activated. Now, let us join forces and project it into the sky of Firmament Star, King Ming said. The Blood Kings nodded. However, after a while, the Blood Kings frowned. There's a huge formation protecting Firmament Star. This formation blocks the blood abyss's senses, so we can't project it into the formation. One of the Blood Kings said. The other Blood Kings were shocked too. They knew that Firmament Star was protected by a huge formation, but they did not expect it to be strong enough to block the blood abyss's energy. If we can't project it into the formation, we'll just leave it outside. Let's destroy the 81 strongholds first. One of the Blood Kings said. I guess that's the only way. In Crimson Yang Planet, Chu Kuangren and the Dharma Taoist master had just finished their discussion. They were sipping tea when both of them frowned at the same time and looked in the direction of Firmament Star. That strange fluctuation just now. It seems like the Firmament Star's formation was hit by something. What's going on? The Dharma Taoist master's expression was extremely solemn. Both of them released their emperor's thoughts and began to inspect the formation. However, they did not find anything strange. Besides the two of them, the other Taoist masters had also sensed the strange fluctuation and released their emperor's thoughts to inspect their surroundings. The hateful parting heaven formation was the strongest line of defense to protect Firmament Star. They could not afford to lose it, or else the consequences would be unimaginable. Buzz, 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 just as the Taoist masters were inspecting their surroundings. Suddenly, an unprecedented violent fluctuation appeared in the cosmic void outside the hateful parting heaven, causing the Taoist master's expressions to change. This fluctuation, what's going on? Look, what's that? The Taoist master's emperor's thoughts converged. A blood-red crack suddenly appeared in the void. It stretched for tens of thousands of miles, and it emitted a strange and ominous fluctuation like an abyss. The Taoist masters tried to probe it with their emperor's thoughts, but the moment they got close, their emperor's thoughts would be shattered by the strange fluctuation. Just as everyone was in shock, the blood-red crack suddenly spewed out a huge amount of blood-red mist towards one of the strongholds. The general who was guarding that stronghold looked extremely solemn as he led a group of emperors to channel their emperor's qi to resist. All sorts of energy attacks were launched into the blood-red mist. However, it was of no use. Following that, some of the soldiers were enveloped by the blood-red mist, and it did not take long for the mist to invade their bodies. Their bodies expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then they screamed in agony as their bodies exploded. This is bad. Quick, retreat. Enter the stronghold and activate the defensive formation. The general who was guarding the stronghold roared. Not long after, hundreds of millions of cultivators retreated to the defensive formation. However, the blood-red mist continued to surge and shroud the stronghold. The mist was like maggots attached to the bones, constantly eroding the stronghold's defensive formation. It was not just one stronghold. The blood-red mist seemed to be boundless as it spewed out from the blood-red abyss-like crack in the void, gradually covering all 81 strongholds. It was even surging towards the Firmament Star. The Taoist masters could not sit still anymore. There's blood origin energy in this blood mist. This is definitely the doing of the blood tribe. How did they do it? All 81 strongholds are shrouded in the blood mist. Not only that, but the blood mist is also spreading towards the Firmament Star. The Firmament Star is protected by the resentful parting formation, so we won't have to worry about the blood mist for now. However, we have to think of a way to solve this problem. All Taoist masters, gather. Under the threat of the blood abyss, the 24 Taoist masters gathered once again to discuss a solution. However, something even more troublesome happened at this time. The frontline troops of the blood tribe, who had been lying low for a few months, took this opportunity to launch a large-scale attack. However, they were not affected by the blood mist. All of a sudden, the strongholds were plunged into a bitter battle. Chapter 756. Kill. With the blood abyss's blessing, we're now the strongest we've ever been. This time, we must break through the firmament. That's right, kill. The blood tribe's invasion had plunged the 81 fortresses into a bitter battle. The blood mist from the blood abyss could suppress the strength of Firmament Star's emperors. Cultivators below the emperor realm could not even survive in the blood mist, let alone fight against the blood tribe. Most of the fortresses could only retreat into their own fortresses and rely on the fortresses' formations to hold on. However, they would not be able to hold on for long. The blood mist's coverage area was still expanding. Not only did it cover the 81 fortresses, but it also gradually fell on the resentful parting formation. Firmament Star. The originally blue and white sky was gradually dyed red. Countless cultivators looked up at the sky and fell into unprecedented shock. What's going on? Why did the sky turn red? What's going on? What a strange aura. The emperors who stayed behind to guard Firmament's star looked at the sky with trembling eyes. Vaguely, they could guess what was going on. This aura belongs to the Blood Tribe. What did the Blood Tribe do this time? It's been so many years since they last caused such a commotion. What's going on this time? Is the Firmament star going to face an unprecedented calamity? The emperor's gazes were solemn and uneasy. Countless living beings were panicking and did not know what to do. Extraterrestrial. 24 Tao Lords had gathered. Relying on their powerful cultivators, they forced their way to the Blood Abyss. They looked at the Blood Abyss before them with extremely solemn eyes. Let's block this Blood Abyss first. Let's try using the Lesser World. The Dharma Tao Lord took a step forward. He released his Lesser World, which covered a radius of 10 million miles. The Lesser World covered the Blood Abyss, which temporarily stopped the blood mist from surging out. However, it did not take long before the blood mist began to corrode the Dharma Tao Lord's Lesser World, and the entire Lesser World began to collapse. This won't do. I can't seal this blood mist by myself, the Dharma Tao Lord said with a solemn expression. Together, the Tao Lords were about to attack. However, at that moment, laughter came from the Blood Abyss. Tao Lords of Firmament Star, your end has come. The Wisdom Sovereign, the Charm Sovereign, and the 12 Blood Kings arrived together. They looked at the myriad arts Tao Lords with playful smiles on their faces. In the fortress, the generals had also sensed the aura of the Path Master and the Blood King. Their faces were extremely grim. Path Master, even the Blood King has taken action. Could it be that this Blood Firmament battle will decide the future of the two civilizations? I didn't expect things to develop to this point. Heavens, what kind of outcome will we be heading towards? 12 Blood Kings and 24 Tao Masters. Seems like the advantage is on our side. We'll definitely win this battle. There were some cultivators who held an optimistic attitude. However, some heavenly venerables weren't so optimistic. They looked at the surging blood mist around them with worried expressions. I'm afraid it's not that simple. In front of the Blood Abyss, the Path Master and the Blood King were facing off. 12 Blood Kings against 24 Tao Lords. If you guys really dared to come, 12 Blood Kings, aren't you afraid that we'll wipe you all out in one fell swoop? Myriad Law's Tao Lord coldly snorted. Can you do it with your current strength? The Wisdom Sovereign chuckled. He grabbed a clump of blood mist and sucked it into his body. A joyful expression appeared on his face. This Blood Abyss can release blood origin chi on a large scale. The Blood Tribe is like a tiger that has grown wings in an environment like this. However, it's like poison to you guys. Especially since you're so close to the Blood Abyss. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you guys to even open a lesser world. 24 Tao Lords, but their combat strength is still slightly inferior to us 12 Blood Kings. The 24 Tao Lords didn't refute his words. This was because the closer they got to the blood mist, the more they could feel the suppressive force. It was difficult for them to fully unleash their combat strength. They had the advantage in numbers, but their combat strength was inferior. This battle would be very difficult for them. Opening this blood abyss must have cost the Blood Origin planet a lot, right? How long can this blood abyss last? Myriad Law's Tao Lord said indifferently. They knew that the Blood Tribe must have paid a huge price to open the blood abyss. If they could open it at will, they would have done so long ago instead of waiting until today. The war between the two civilizations would not have lasted for so long. It's true that we've paid a huge price, but as long as we can kill all of you, Firmament Star will no longer have the power to resist us. As long as we can take down Firmament Star, any price is worth it. Let's see what you've got then. A white bead appeared above the Myriad Law's Tao Lord's head. The bead glowed with Taoist patterns. It was his Taoist weapon. The other Tao Lords took out their Taoist weapons as well. Terrifying energy ripples spread in all directions. The universe was shaken. The Wisdom Sovereign glanced at the crowd and said, "Why isn't Chu Kuangren here? What's wrong? Is he afraid?" The Heavenly Yellow Tao Lord glanced at the Myriad Law's Tao Lord and said, "This battle is very important. Why isn't Chu Kuangren here?" The other Tao Lords were curious too. Chu Kuangren could kill a Dao Lord, which meant that he was on the same level as them. So why wasn't he here for the Dao Lord's battle? Could it be that he was afraid? Brother Chu has gone to prepare something. The Myriad Law's Dao Lord said. It doesn't matter what he's prepared. Once the blood abyss is activated, there's no stopping it. You're all doomed. The Wisdom Sovereign said. Let's fight. The Myriad Law's Dao Lord was the first to attack. The white bead above his head radiated with a dazzling brilliance. A ray of white light shot out and countless Taoist patterns intertwined within it. The Wisdom Sovereign unleashed a punch. Boom! The Dao Lord's aura collided, and the Myriad Law's Dao Lord was forced back. This blood abyss's suppression is really troublesome. The Myriad Law's Dao Lord's expression turned grim. Brother Myriad, I'll help you. The demonic bull Dao Lord let out an angry roar, and a gigantic black bull shadow appeared behind him. Its roar shook the celestial bodies. The Wisdom Sovereign shattered the demonic bull Dao Lord's shadow and took out a pitch-black longsword. Countless vengeful spirits wailed on the blade. Today, all the Dao Lords of Firmament Star shall fall. From now on, Firmament Star shall be the colony of the Blood Source planet, and the cultivators of Firmament Star shall be the slaves of the Blood Tribe. The Wisdom Sovereign laughed out loud. Dream on. You want to destroy Firmament Star? Impossible. The 24 Dao Lords and the 12 Blood Kings clashed. Vast energy waves swept across the area. The fortress in the distance trembled as it sensed the terrifying energy waves. Boom! The demonic bull Dao Lord was sent flying by the Wisdom Sovereign slash. He spat out a mouthful of blood. This blood abyss's suppression is too strong. The demonic bull Dao Lord glanced at the other Dao Lords. The Dao Lords were suppressed by the blood abyss, and they could not unleash their full strength. Under the ferocious attacks of the 12 Blood Kings, they were injured one after another. Are we really going to lose after holding on for so long? The demonic bull Dao Lord said indignantly. They had held on for 12 eras. Were they going to lose to the blood abyss today? Chapter 757. Hold on. Just then, a voice rang out. Several powerful energy waves erupted from the depths of the universe, and several streams of light arrived before the blood abyss in the blink of an eye. Every single one of these people was emitting powerful energy ripples. Their leader was a green-clothed man. Heavenly Executioner. The Dharma Dao Lord and the others were overjoyed. These people were the other 8 Heavenly Executioners, excluding the 7 Executioners. Among these 8 people, there was an old man with a walking stick, a swordsman with a long sword, and a valiant woman with a long saber. 8 Heavenly Executioners, 8 different auras. Your injuries. The arrival of the 8 Heavenly Executioners delighted the Dao Lord. However, when he thought of their injuries, the Dharma Dao Lord could not help but worry. Could they really fight the Dao Lord while injured? Firmament Star is about to be destroyed. Who cares about injuries? A burly man said. His muscles were like molten iron, extremely shocking. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and he exuded a majestic battle intent. This person was the 3rd Heavenly Executioner, the 3rd Executioner. He was the most hot-tempered and battle-hungry, and he looked at the Blood Kings opposite him with an eager look in his eyes. This is my first time fighting the Blood Tribe Dao Lord. Don't disappoint me. Farsighted King looked at the Heavenly Executioner who suddenly appeared. I didn't expect Firmament Star to have hidden forces. However, judging from their auras, they're all injured. Nothing to worry about. Let's give it a try. The 3rd Executioner attacked first. With a punch, the Taoist markings turned into a majestic fist force. One of the Blood Kings snorted and also punched. The 2 fists collided with each other. The 3rd Executioner was pushed back hundreds of feet. That's strong enough. Again. With the addition of the Heavenly Executioners, Firmament Star's combat power increased significantly, and they could barely withstand the attacks of the 12 Blood Kings. However, the situation was still not optimistic. The Dharma Tao Lord noticed that the heavenly executioner's attacks were no longer as fierce as before. He knew that the heavenly executioners must have used some method to suppress their injuries, which was why they could fight the Tao Lord. However, it was still too much, and with the suppression of the blood abyss, they would not be able to maintain this state for long. Furthermore, the 81 forts would not be able to withstand the Blood Tribe army's attack for long. Boom! At this time, a shocking explosion came from afar. However, one of the great arrays in one of the 81 fortresses was breached by the Blood Clan, and countless cultivators were instantly exposed to a mist of blood. We must destroy all 81 strongholds this time. The bloodlings charged into the group of cultivators. Not long after, the sound of slaughter resounded throughout the world. A large number of Heavenly Dome Realm cultivators were either invaded by the blood mist and exploded, or they were slaughtered by the Blood Tribe cultivators. The Firmament Star's Tao Lords were so furious that their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. "You're definitely going to lose," King Ming sneered. After that, a terrifying suction force erupted from his body, and he sucked the blood mist into his body like a whale sucking in water. And his aura was actually rising steadily. This was the divine ability of the Blood Tribe, the power of blood darkness. The other Blood Kings did the same and raised their combat strength. These fellows can actually use the blood darkness power to absorb the surrounding blood mist to increase their combat strength. The expressions of the Myriad Arts sect master and the others were extremely gloomy. Buzz, 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 buzz. Just as Wisdom King and the others were about to fight again, far away, a series of buzzing sounds suddenly came. What's that sound? It sounds like a sword hum. Everyone looked into the distance. From the 81 strongholds, countless long swords suddenly rose into the air and traveled across the universe. 100 million, 200 million, there were so many of them that they were uncountable. The countless long swords crisscrossed and let out a deafening rumble in the void. They then turned into 81 torrents that charged towards the blood abyss. The sword chi swept across hundreds of millions of miles, shocking the stars in the universe. At the forefront of the 81 torrents of swords was a white-robed young man with fluttering black hair. The young man's expression was cold, and there was not a trace of emotion in his eyes. Hundreds of millions of long swords followed closely behind him, and the sword chi sliced through the blood mist for him. Blood Kings, today, I bring the swords of the 81 strongholds to battle against you. Chu Kuangren's voice echoed throughout the universe. In the 81 strongholds, countless swordsmen had a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Their swords were also within that torrent of swords. Chu Kuangren. As expected, you're the biggest obstacle to the Blood Tribe. King Ming stared at Chu Kuangren with murderous intent in his eyes. The other Blood Kings were also shocked. Chu Kuangren wielded hundreds of millions of swords from the 81 strongholds. What kind of terrifying power was that? Even the 12 Blood Kings would have to retreat if they joined forces. However, they could not retreat, and they would not retreat. Activating the Blood Abyss had exhausted the resources that the Bloodborne planet had accumulated over the past few eras. They no longer had the ability to activate it again. If they did not kill Chu Kuangren this time, they would not have another chance in the future. Kill! King Ming roared. The 12 Blood Kings joined forces to attack. Dragon Slayer slash. Sky Destroyer hand. Floating Cloud palm. Dark Tide Yellow Dragon slash. 12 different types of profoundness erupted with the power of a Tao Lord. Majestic and mighty, it turned into a colorful torrent that tore through the starry sky and blasted towards Chu Kuangren with its immense power. That power instantly forced the Dharma Tao Lord and the others to retreat. Bring it on. Chu Kuangren was not afraid at all. His expression was extremely cold. At that moment, he was already in the unification Taoist realm. Using the firmament Heavenly Tao's power and the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, he borrowed the swords of countless swordsmen from the 81 strongholds. At that moment, he was not fighting alone. He represented the firmament star's sword Taoist power since the beginning of time. 81 surges of swords surged out and collided with the colorful torrent that was unleashed by the 12 Blood Kings. Boom, boom, boom. Violent rumbling sounds could be heard as the asteroids and meteorites within a radius of 10 million kilometers exploded like firecrackers. Countless swords were sent flying out. The colorful torrent was also gradually disintegrated. Far away, the firmament star also felt the impact of that terrifying power and trembled slightly. Fortunately, it was protected by the hateful parting formation. Otherwise, it would not just be a slight tremble. After that terrifying attack, the 12 Blood Kings were forced to retreat. They looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. They did not expect that Chu Kuangren could withstand the combined attack of the 12 Blood Kings. It was their first time witnessing something like that. That attack just now has used up 1/3 of his swords. He can only block 2 more attacks at most. King Ming said loudly. The Blood Tribe still had the upper hand in this battle. Chu Kuangren's expression was calm and unfazed. With a thought, the countless swords behind him charged towards the 12 Blood Kings from all directions under his control. Block it together, King Ming said. When the 12 Blood Kings attacked, their mini-worlds erupted and overlapped to form a blood-colored barrier. When the swords collided with the barrier, a loud explosion was heard as if 2 stars had collided. Even the 12 Blood Kings felt pressured. Something's not right. Suddenly, King Ming noticed something. Only a small portion of the swords were attacking them. Most of the swords were heading towards the blood abyss behind them. His target is the blood abyss. King Ming's eyes narrowed. Chapter 758. Oh no, his target is the blood abyss. The Wisdom King's eyes widened. The countless flying swords flew towards the blood abyss behind the Blood Kings, and in the blink of an eye, all of them crashed into the blood abyss. Amidst the explosion, an incredibly powerful sealing force erupted. The blood abyss that stretched for thousands of kilometers was quickly sealed. He's sealing the blood abyss. D****, this is a sword formation. The Blood King's expressions changed drastically. The blood abyss was the Blood Tribe's secret weapon. It took them several eras of resources to open it. Now, it was sealed by someone single-handedly. To them, this was completely unimaginable. This is great. Brother Chu, I didn't know you had such a technique up your sleeve. The Dharma Taoist master and the others were overjoyed. However, Chu Kuangren, who was controlling the sword formation, frowned. He could feel a powerful resistance coming from the blood abyss. The blood abyss could not shrink any further after it had shrunk to 100 kilometers. Not only that, but countless swords began to fall. The sealing sword formation was showing signs of collapsing. The Wisdom King, Charm King, and the other Blood Kings could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Chu Kuangren, your sword formation may be powerful, but it's impossible to seal the blood abyss. Just accept your fate. The Wisdom King laughed. Chu Kuangren sneered. I don't believe in fate. He looked at the giant blood abyss. Since I can't seal the blood abyss, I'll destroy its source. With that, his figure flashed and shot towards the blood abyss. In your dreams, the Blood Kings wanted to stop him. However, the Dharma Taoist master and the others made their move. Although the blood abyss was not completely sealed, its suppressive force had greatly weakened, allowing them to unleash more combat strength. You guys are just putting up a desperate struggle. It's still too early to tell who will win. The Taoist master, the heavenly executioner, and the Blood Kings fought again. With them holding him back, Chu Kuangren dashed towards the blood abyss. However, a few top-notch heavenly honorables suddenly rushed towards him from the battlefield. Chu Kuangren, let us have a taste of your strength. Even the Taoist master is suppressed by the Blood Tribe. How much combat strength can a cultivator like you possibly unleash? The Blood Tribe heavenly honorable sneered and attacked Chu Kuangren. All kinds of powerful profound mysteries were unleashed. Courting death. Chu Kuangren let out a light snort and raised his hand to unleash a punch. Ultimate profundity erupted. Boom. A fist force wrapped in boundless emperor energy was accompanied by the terrifying phenomenon of the sun and moon reversing, and it actually shattered several peak heavenly venerables with a single strike. This power, what's going on? The mouths of the blood race's heavenly venerables and Tao Lords were agape. What was going on? Even the Tao Lords were suppressed by the blood abyss, so why was Chu Kuangren not affected at all? Not only that, but he even destroyed a few heavenly honorables with a single punch? What the hell is going on? King Ming and the others could not help but frown. Blood Dark Force? I don't believe he's really invincible. The peak heavenly venerables of the blood race snorted coldly. A powerful suction force erupted from their bodies, sucking in the surrounding blood mist into their bodies. The Empyrean venerables' battle prowess was strengthened, becoming even more powerful. However, at that moment, Chu Kuangren did something that left everyone at the scene dumbfounded. He let out a low roar, and a suction force far more terrifying than that of heavenly venerables erupted, sucking in the surrounding blood mist into his body. His aura was also increasing. Everyone was dumbfounded. This was especially so for the blood race, whose eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. They could not be more familiar with the fluctuations that emanated from Chu Kuangren's body. It was the blood tribe's exclusive divine ability, the Blood Dark Force. Chu Kuangren could use the Blood Dark Force. Was that not the blood tribe's exclusive divine ability? Could he be a blood tribe member? Everyone was filled with doubts. I've studied the blood tribe's physiques thoroughly during this period of time. It's just the Blood Dark Force. What's so special about it? Chu Kuangren said calmly. Everyone could not help but be shocked when they heard that. Studying the blood tribe's physiques and turning their divine abilities into his own? How can he do something like that? Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Dharma Taoist Master, Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master, and the others were shocked too. At that moment, they finally understood why Chu Kuangren had the Dharma Taoist avatar and so many Taoist physiques. It was all because of his research. Although it was inconceivable, it was the only explanation. Chu Kuangren could study the physiques of other people and other races. This is unheard of. The Wisdom King and the others could not help but tremble violently. It was their first time hearing about something like that. It was a completely new worldview for them. However, Chu Kuangren's improvement was not over yet. As he channeled his mind power, a gigantic colorful rune gathered in the air. It was the rune, Divine Nine Dragons Transformation. The spiritual qi within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers was sucked dry by the rune and turned into 9 colorful dragons that surged into Chu Kuangren's body. His combat strength had increased once again. Blood Dark Force, Taoist Unification Mode, Divine Nine Dragons Transformation. With all these enhancements, Chu Kuangren's cultivation level had risen to the Taoist Lord Realm, and it was approaching the mid-stage minor Taoist master level. Coupled with his various trump cards, his combat strength was unfathomable. He glanced at the blood abyss, and a determined look flashed across his eyes. You're dreaming if you think you can destroy the Firmament Sword sect with just the blood abyss. He snorted coldly before he took a step forward. None of the heavenly venerables along the way could stop him. They could not even get close to him before they were crushed by the little world that he had released. At that moment, in the faraway firmament star, a dazzling silver-white sword ray cut through the void above the hateful parting heavenly formation and flew towards Chu Kuangren. Wherever the sword ray passed, the blood tribe members were shredded into pieces. That was a sword. A silver-white sword that was engraved with countless mysterious Taoist patterns. That's the Divine Terminus Sword. The Dharma Taoist Master's eyes narrowed. The other Taoists were shocked too. It's the Sword Taoist Master. Has he awakened? The Sword Taoist Master, the first exquisite 9 orifices sword heart in Firmament Star, was currently acting as the formation core, just like the Water Path sect master himself. No, the Sword Taoist Master can't leave the hateful parting heavenly, but he has sent his Tao weapon, the Divine Terminus Sword. He's using this method to help Brother Chu. The Dharma Taoist Master exclaimed. Upon hearing that, everyone came to a realization. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren raised his hand and grabbed the Divine Terminus Sword that was flying towards him. Then, a man's voice rang in his mind. "Young one, take my sword and fight." Chu Kuangren held the divine terminus sword with a smirk. With the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, he did not need to refine the sword to unleash its power. "Thank you very much, senior." His figure turned into a stream of light and flew into the blood abyss. The Blood Kings did not look too good when they saw that. However, they were not too worried. The origin of the blood abyss is at the blood source star. There are nearly 20 Taoists guarding that place. What can Chu Kuangren do? The Wisdom King sneered. The Dharma Taoist master and the others' expressions darkened. Nearly 20 Taoists guarding it? No matter how strong Chu Kuangren was, could he really destroy the origin of the blood abyss when faced with such a lineup? Now, we can only place our hopes on him. The Dharma Taoist master took a deep breath and said, they could not unleash their full power under the blood abyss suppression, so they could only rely on Chu Kuangren. Chapter 759. Once Chu Kuangren entered the blood abyss, he could feel an endless amount of blood origin power gushing towards him from all directions. In such an environment, even the emperors of Firmament Star would find it hard to survive. Only cultivators with blood tribe physiques could survive, but even the blood tribe heavenly honorables could not absorb so much blood origin power. However, Chu Kuangren could. He knew very well that destroying the blood abyss's origin was not an easy task, so he wanted to increase his strength as much as possible. Hence, he pushed his universal cauldron physique to its limit and absorbed the blood origin power around him like a whale sucking in water. With the help of the blood dark energy, his strength continued to increase. The blood abyss was pitch black. At the end of the darkness, there was a flash of blood-colored light. Chu Kuangren dashed towards that light. When he passed through the light, his field of vision became extremely empty. He saw a towering blood-colored mountain peak. At the peak of the mountain was a huge blood-colored light orb that contained countless mysterious runes and Taoist patterns. Chu Kuangren activated his emperor's thought and instantly knew where he was. A hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. He was now at the origin of the blood tribe, the blood source planet. The blood abyss planet was at least 20 light-years away from Firmament Star. Through the blood abyss, he had traveled 20 light-years to the blood source planet. Xiao AI, analyze this light orb. Chu Kuangren looked at the light orb in front of him. He guessed that this light orb was most likely related to the blood abyss. Yes, master. With the all-knowing spirit's analysis, Chu Kuangren finally understood the information of this huge light orb. His guess was right. This light orb was the origin of the blood abyss. With the blood origin crystals produced by the blood source planet as its energy source and the sacred blood mountain as a medium, it could convert the impure spiritual qi in the universe into blood origin qi. To close the blood abyss, there were 2 ways. The first way was to have the Blood King shut it down. The second way was to destroy this light orb. The first way was impossible. However, the second way was much more risky. The energy contained in this light orb was too much. If it was destroyed by external forces, the energy that would be released would be enough to destroy the world. It could even destroy half of the blood source planet. Since Chu Kuangren was the saboteur, he was naturally the first to bear the brunt. The current situation in Firmament Star can't be delayed any longer. I can't afford to delay any longer. I can only take a risk. Besides, it's definitely a good thing for the Firmament Star to blow up half of the blood origin planet. There's no reason not to do it. Chu Kuangren's eyes gradually revealed a look of determination. He had an immortal body. What was there to be afraid of? Perhaps there were countless blood tribe cultivators who had never participated in the war on the blooded origin planet, and the explosion of the light sphere would be a devastating blow to them. However, Chu Kuangren could not care less about that now. This was a war between civilizations. It was destined that there would be countless deaths and injuries. Chu Kuangren raised the Heaven Terminus sword and unleashed a slash. The sword chi locked onto the light ball. However, before Chu Kuangren's sword could even touch that light orb, several lesser realms appeared at the same time and formed a barrier that blocked Chu Kuangren's sword chi. One Tao Lord after another walked out of the Blood God Mountain. These people were the previous kings of the 13 clans. However, they were now living in seclusion within the Blood God Mountain. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren, one of the Blood Tribe Tao Lord was surprised. Oh, this aura belongs to someone from the Firmament Star. However, you have the Blood Origin energy on you. The Blood Origin energy could only be controlled by the Blood Tribe. They had never seen it on any cultivators other than the Blood Tribe. Not to mention the Blood Tribe's nemesis, the Firmament Star. He wants to destroy the Blood Abyss Origin. It seems like he came here through the Blood Abyss. How did a cultivator from the Firmament Star get here through the Blood Abyss? And this aura, is it a heavenly Tao fluctuation? Interesting. This is really interesting. He must be the Firmament Star demon who killed the White King. Heh, I can't believe he would walk right into our trap. The Blood Tribe Tao Lords began to discuss. They had heard about Chu Kuangren from the Blood Kings. However, it was their first time meeting him, so they could not help but look at him curiously. They were not at all worried that he could destroy the light sphere. After all, with them here, no matter how strong Chu Kuangren was, could he fight against more than 10 Tao Lords all by himself? Stop joking. The fact that Chu Kuangren could kill a Tao Lord without even reaching the Tao Lord realm was already shocking enough, but to fight against more than 10 Tao Lords all by himself? How could they believe such a ridiculous story? In fact, they had never thought about it at all. Chu Kuangren did not want to waste his breath on these people. He was about to unleash his spatial conveyor technique, but these Tao Lords seemed to be on guard against his spatial technique. One by one, they sealed off the surroundings with their lesser realms, not giving him a chance to unleash his technique at all. Not only that, but they were on the Blood Origin planet's sacred Blood Mountain. The spatial structure here was different from the outside world. Since Chu Kuangren had just arrived, he had yet to fully analyze the spatial structure here. This made it even more difficult for him to unleash his spatial conveyor technique. Chu Kuangren counted. There were 17 Tao Lords here. 17 Tao Lords. This battle was obviously going to be a difficult one. Kill! Chu Kuangren seemed to be emotionless in his unification Taoist state. He yelled and swung the divine terminus sword in his hand. Chu Kuangren's combat strength had increased significantly under the enhancement of the Tao weapon. Coupled with the ultimate profoundness, the attack was extremely powerful. However, the combined attacks of more than 10 Tao Lords were nothing to him. Divine River Slash. Star Plucking Finger. The Blood Tribe Tao Lords unleashed their ultimate profoundness. The collision of energy set off a terrifying storm in the surroundings. Chu Kuangren's sword chi was instantly shattered. However, he did not dodge the energy impact at all. Instead, he relied on his powerful physical strength and immortal body to force his way through it. Does this guy have a death wish? Even so, he won't be able to destroy the Blood Abyss. One of the Tao Lords took a step forward and unleashed a punch. Chu Kuangren did not dodge again. Instead, he took the punch head-on and swung the divine terminus sword in his hand. The sword ray flashed, and the Tao Lord could not dodge it completely. The sword slashed through his chest, and a large amount of blood splattered out. D***. Blood cloud chains. One of the Tao Lords unleashed his Tao Lord technique, and a dark red chain flew out, trying to bind Chu Kuangren. Worldlook. Purple chains erupted from Chu Kuangren's body as well. When the chains collided in the air, the red and purple lights clashed, producing a metallic sound. Chu Kuangren continued to dash towards the light sphere. In your dreams, a blood fiend clan Tao Lord with a staff in his hand roared. He waved the staff in his hand, and multiple staff shadows surrounded Chu Kuangren. Invincible technique, universal reversal. Chu Kuangren did not dodge. Instead, he raised his sword and swung it. The staff and sword collided, and both sides were pushed back. At that moment, a blood-red chain suddenly crawled onto Chu Kuangren's left hand and bound him tightly. "Ha, I've caught you!" The blood fiend clan Tao Lord who was controlling the chain sneered. However, Chu Kuangren remained emotionless. He raised the divine terminus sword and slashed at his left shoulder without any hesitation. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.